Chapter 1632. At the border of Tang Xian's territory, they were all experts of the Chan River Demon tribe, including the people of the White Will tribe. They were all lined up. Under the leadership of Tang Lan and Tang Hong, the monster race of Chan River were united against a common enemy. They were filled with fighting spirit and an unyielding will that would never admit defeat. Instead of waiting for death, why don't we take the initiative to attack and show the fighting spirit of Tang Xian's territory? Everyone, am I right? Tang Lan clenched his fists and encouraged the monster race of Chan River. Yes, that's right. Kill those bastards of Tiger Roar's territory. Tang Hong yelled. Let them see the pride and will of our Tang Xian territory. Even our human friends, who have nothing to do with us, are helping us without reservation. If we still act like cowards, wouldn't we bring shame to Princess Qi? Tang Lan said. Brother Lin Feng of the human race has already entered Tiger Roar's territory. Let's follow him and kill. Kill. Let's fight. Good job, human brother. The group of Chan River monster race was already impatient. As soon as Tang Lan and Tang Hong gave the order, they would rush out of the boundary and kill their way into the territory of Who Roar. At this moment, there was a ripple in the water in front of them, and a human figure appeared. It was Lin Feng, who had just left. He's back. Everyone and the monster race of Chan River were stunned. It's good that you're back, Brother Lin Feng. Tang Lan stepped forward and smiled. You're too impulsive. How can one person fight the entire Tiger Roar's territory? If you want to go, wait until we gather our forces. Yes, Brother Lin, there's strength in numbers, Bai Qi said. Tang Hong nodded. Now that everyone is here, we no need. Lin Feng interrupted. Glancing at the confused monster race of Chan River, Lin Feng said, The Tiger Roar King is dead, and Tiger Roar's territory has surrendered. With the 7th princess as the leader, it will officially join Tang Xian's territory. Looking at the stunned Tang Lan and Tang Hong, Lin Feng said, You two can bring the monster race of Chan River over now and arrange for the merger. Tang Lan and Tang Hong looked at each other in confusion. Lin Feng's words were simply too shocking. Not to mention the two of them. Even the other Chan River demons were staring at each other in disbelief. This news had come too suddenly. The Tiger Roar King is dead? Did the Tiger Roar territory surrender? How could this be? Even the White Will tribe, which had always been led by Lin Feng, was stunned. They had lived in Tang Xian's territory for a long time and had long since integrated into Tang Xian's territory. Usually, they were bullied and humiliated by the Tiger Roar tribe and hated them to the bone. But what could they do? Who Roar's territory was far more powerful than Tang Xian's territory. Even in the entire Beichan River, Who Roar's territory could be considered a considerable force. But now, such a powerful territory was surrendering to a small territory like Tang Xian? That's ridiculous. Lin Feng, you killed the roaring Tiger King. Bai Tang's beautiful eyes flashed as she asked. Everyone's gazes gathered as Bai Tang asked the biggest question in their hearts. Yes, Lin Feng nodded his head. His indifferent expression made it seem like he had done something insignificant. The Chan River demons sucked in a deep breath, and Tang Hong couldn't help but ask. The roaring Tiger King has advanced to the Black Region Master Realm. Advanced to the Black Region Master Realm. It was a level above ordinary Black Region Masters. His strength was unfathomable, and he could be considered a tyrant in the Beichan River. Lin Feng smiled. The roaring Tiger King was only at the threshold of advancing to the Black Region Master Realm. There were plenty of Chan River demons with such strength in the Beichan Royal Region. Compared to the top 10 experts of the Beichan River, he was nothing, not to mention the top 3 experts. Not to mention one. Even 100 or 1,000 of them wouldn't be enough. But even if the roaring Tiger King is dead, the Chan River demons in Who Roar territory wouldn't surrender, right? Tang Lan frowned and asked the question in his heart. Although he was shocked by Lin Feng's strength, he couldn't figure out the reason. With the temperament of the Chan River demons, one territory wouldn't surrender to another territory. It was the same as changing one's name. Not to mention, this kind of internal strife was not allowed in the Beichan River. Normally, It would be impossible. Lin Feng said. However, with the Beichan King's permission, it's different. Beichan King. The eyes of the Chan River demons lit up, and they revealed a look of joy. Are you serious, Brother Lin Feng? Tang Lan lost his usual calmness and asked excitedly. Lin Feng nodded his head. The seventh princess and the eldest princess had some misunderstandings before, but they have already buried the hatchet and will soon return to the territory. The Roaring Tiger King's ambitions are endless, and leaving him alive is a disaster. Therefore, this unstable factor must be eliminated. When he left in the future, it was hard to guarantee that the Roaring Tiger King wouldn't have other thoughts. With Tang Xian-er's talent, it would take a long time for her to surpass the Roaring Tiger King. He couldn't stay here forever to protect her, so he had to help her solve a small problem before he left. Not to mention, if he didn't take revenge, he wasn't a gentleman. Lin Feng had always kept the Roaring Tiger King's evil in his heart. After getting Lin Feng's confirmation, Tang Lan and Tang Hong quickly led the Chan River demons to the Roaring Tiger territory to investigate the situation. The rest of the demons anxiously waited, nervous and expectant. Soon, Tang Lan and Tang Hong returned, their cheeks flushed red, and their eyes were filled with joy. It's true, the Roaring Tiger King is really dead, and the entire Roaring Tiger territory will belong to our Tang Xian territory. Tang Lan raised his arms and shouted excitedly. His gaze was filled with respect and gratitude as he looked at Lin Feng. Even 1,000 words would not be enough to express his gratitude. Tang Hong's watery face looked at Lin Feng, and her beautiful eyes were filled with worship. She had talked with Tang Lan and the experts of the Roaring Tiger territory, so she naturally knew about Lin Feng's awe-inspiring history. He used his own strength to intimidate the entire Roaring Tiger territory and took the Roaring Tiger King's head. Insta-kill in one move. What kind of strength was this? Boom! Tang Lan's words exploded among the Chan River demons, and they were filled with joy. Every Chan River demon was incomparably excited. Some roared, some hugged, and some even cried. They had been suppressed for too long. They had always been bullied by the Roaring Tiger territory, and they had never thought that there would be a day where they could overturn the situation. Today, they were going to swallow the Roaring Tiger territory. Thank you, Brother Lin Feng. Tang Lan held Lin Feng's hand and said deeply, his eyes flashing, I know that you must have helped the seventh princess escape. You must have helped our Tang Xian territory overcome this crisis. I really don't know how to thank you. Lin Feng smiled and said, All right, don't be so sentimental. As you said, we are friends, aren't we? Tang Lan smiled and chuckled. That's right, we're good friends. Good friends. Clasping their hands, Lin Feng and Tang Lan looked at each other and smiled. Although they were from different races, they had a deep friendship. Chapter 16:33. Leave. Bai Qi and Bai Tang looked at each other. Lin Feng nodded. What do you think? Bai Qi frowned and said, It's nothing much. We'll go back to where we came from. After all, this is Chan River's territory. Even if we blend in, we'll still be out of place. Bai Tang pursed his lips. We'll always be under the demon's protection. Lin Feng said, Our relationship is good now, but it doesn't mean it will be good forever. No one knows what will happen in the future. It's not good for development to rely on others. Although there are many dangers on land, there are dangers in competition to promote a tribe's strength. He could protect the White Wool tribe for a while, but not forever. Chan River was the root of the Chan River demon tribe. Moreover, Chan River's elemental energy is limited, and there's no spatial energy to provide. It's harder to become the master of the Black region. Lin Feng said, With danger comes reward. Only by leaving here can the White Wool tribe have a new life. Lin Feng looked at the two frowning people and said, Don't worry. I'll help you build a new tribe and arrange everything before leaving. Really? Bai Qi's eyes lit up. Lin Feng smiled and nodded. Bai Qi laughed heartily. That's different. Let's go. We'll leave immediately. Bai Tang couldn't help but laugh. She was more beautiful than a flower. Bai Qi was not embarrassed at all. Instead, he was very proud. With Brother Lin Feng backing us, we can do whatever we want in the northern continent. At least, anyone who wants to touch us will have to think twice. Lin Feng laughed involuntarily. However, he knew Bai Qi's concerns. After all, he and Bai Tang were responsible for the entire White Will tribe. Even if they did not consider themselves, they had to consider their tribesmen and the tribe's bloodline. Survival was the most important thing to them. Don't worry. Lin Feng patted Bai Qi's shoulder and smiled. Even if we meet the mad Mistwing Monarch or the cool Wonderwing Monarch, I'll ensure your safety. Bullsh asterisk T. Bai Qi rolled his eyes. If you're so powerful, you can unify the northern continent. The mad Mistwing Monarch and the cool Strange Wing Monarch were the two strongest experts in the North Continent. They were equally famous as Emperor Yu. That's right. I heard that their strength has already reached the peak of the Black Domain Master Realm. If Sovereign Yu is defeated, Yurin City will definitely be captured by the Wing Clan. At that time, our human race will have no place to stay. Bai Tang's eyes were filled with worry as he softly sighed. Yurin City was the symbol of the human race. To every human on the Tong Chi continent, it had an extremely strong spiritual significance. Reaching the pinnacle of the Black Domain Master Realm, Lin Feng murmured and smiled. His true body strength had already reached the peak of the Black Domain Master Realm, and the Tyrant Dragon Avatar had long since surpassed that. The threshold to become a top-notch Black Domain Master. Time flew. The trip to the Beichan River this time was just a snap of a finger for the White Will tribe. It was not even 100 years. However, it was extremely long for Lin Feng. Just in the Beichan Royal region alone, he had cultivated bitterly for tens of thousands of years. His strength increased from chaotic immortal to Black Domain Master. The increase in his combat strength was even more terrifying. Lin Feng pondered for a long time before making a decision. The northern continent won't encounter any danger for the time being. My true body strength is enough to deal with it. The Tyrant Dragon Avatar will stay in the Beichan River for the time being. The Tyrant Dragon Avatar's strength would increase even faster if it stayed at the intersection. High-grade, true meaning, spatial lock. The Tyrant Dragon Avatar's innate talent was far inferior to his true body's comprehension of space. He relied more on the cultivation environment than his true body. Now that the Coral Imperial Palace had such a good place to cultivate, he naturally couldn't miss it. Moreover, the Eastern Shan King, Southern Shan King, and Western Shan King might be secretly monitoring me. If I leave now, I'm afraid I'll arouse their suspicions. Just in case, it's better for me to stay for a while. Lin Feng considered many things. As the saying goes, caution is the parent of safety. His combat strength had yet to reach the peak and was far inferior to the three Chan Kings. He should avoid them. I'm enough to deal with the northern continent. Lin Feng smiled. In addition, in terms of talent, his true body was superior to the Tyrant Dragon Avatar. The latter only had such combat strength because of the benefits. His focus was still on his true body. If he relied on the Tyrant Dragon Avatar every time he encountered danger, it would be difficult for his true body to grow. Soon, my true body will become as strong as the Tyrant Dragon Avatar. Lin Feng was confident. In terms of combat strength, the difference between the two wasn't that great. He bid farewell to the people of Tang Xian's territory. Everyone was reluctant to part. Whether it was the people of the White Will tribe or the monsters of Tang Xian's territory, they had become friends. However, all good things must come to an end. Immediately, Lin Feng led the people of the White Will tribe back to the northern continent. Brother Lin, which new area are we going to now? Bai Qi asked. Is it troublesome to rebuild a tribe in a new area? Lin Feng asked. Bai Qi looked at Bai Tang. Bai Tang was the most familiar with internal affairs. The latter nodded softly and said, It's a little troublesome. The most difficult thing is to find a tribe's base. It must be hidden and have a good natural environment. There are very few places that can have both of these. As long as these two things are prepared, a tribe's base can be given 8 points. Other small details have their own uses, such as the surrounding human tribes, ores, metal resources, and so on. Generally speaking, to find a tribe with 9 points, it will take at least a few hundred years, at most 10,000 years, or more than 100,000 years. Bai Tang's voice was a little regretful. The previous tribe's base was perfect. It would be difficult to find another one. I understand. Lin Feng nodded and glanced at the people of the White Will tribe. He smiled and said, "Let's go back. Go back to where we came from." Everyone was startled. Bai Tang said, "But our base has been exposed." "Yes, and the Qi tribe will definitely not let us go." Bai Qi said worriedly, "Once they catch one of us, it will be easy for them to find us. It will be useless no matter where we build our base." "Actually, it's not that troublesome," Lin Feng said. "It's better to be familiar. The White Will tribe has been here for countless eras and has a good relationship with the surrounding human tribes. They also have connections with other tribes. Rather than entering an unfamiliar environment and starting from scratch, it's better to go back to the original place and rebuild. Not only will it save a lot of time, but it will also save a lot of effort, right?" "But the Qi tribe," Bai Qi said hesitantly. Lin Feng raised his hand and his eyes flashed. "I know everyone has concerns, but there's nothing to worry about. The moment we return to this area, the Qi tribe will officially end. Just destroy it." Chapter 16:34. The Qi Clan. The strongest winged man tribe in the area where the White Will tribe was located had dozens of six-winged wingman kings and 4 intermediate black domain masters. The strongest one was even close to an advanced black domain master. In the wingman tribe, the Qi clan could be considered a medium-sized tribe. At that time, destroying the White Will tribe was as easy as flipping one's hand. However, the Qi clan was too arrogant and only sent the injured intermediate black domain master, Qifeng. Although they had many soldiers, they didn't have many generals. Qifeng was lured away by Lin Feng, and the Qi clan was lured away. The White Will tribe easily escaped the encirclement. As for the injured Qifeng, he was one step behind and was killed by Lin Feng. This battle wasn't a big loss for the Qi clan, but it was a deep humiliation. They had been played by the neck by a small human tribe. After that, although the Qi clan frantically searched for the White Will tribe, they found nothing. This was because the White Will tribe had already hidden in the Chan River. Now what? The White Will tribe has appeared. Patriarch Qi Feng abruptly stood up. His bright eyes flashed with a sharp cold light. His whole body trembled violently. His deep eyes instantly shone with a fierce light. He clenched his teeth and slammed his big hand on the table. "Very good. They actually have the guts to appear." Patriarch Qi Feng deeply remembered the humiliation of that day. It was unforgettable. Qi Feng's defeat made the Qi clan a laughingstock. The Winged Man tribe didn't have any secrets, so the news quickly spread. The Winged Man tribe in the surrounding areas would occasionally mention this matter, causing the Qi clan's reputation to hit rock bottom. "Father, this matter is strange." The one standing upright was a Winged Man tribe youth. He had big eyes, orange eyebrows, a bony face, and high cheekbones. He looked 80% similar to Patriarch Qi Feng. This was Patriarch Qi Feng's son, Qi Wanjun. The Qi clan had 4 intermediate black domain masters. One was Patriarch Qi Feng, one was Grand Commander Qi Meng, and the last was Qi Wanjun. Among them, Patriarch Qi Feng was the strongest. He had 1 foot in the advanced black domain master realm. As for the young Patriarch, Qi Wanjun, he was publicly acknowledged to have the greatest potential, because he was the disciple of the Northern Continent's 2 strongest experts, the Mad Mistwing Monarch. At such a young age, he was already a mid-level black domain master. His future was limitless. "What's so strange about it?" Qi Meng asked in a low voice. The young tribe leader, Qi Wanjun, clasped his hands behind his back and said, "Since the White Will tribe has already fled, why did they come back? He clearly knows that our Qi clan will never let them off. Returning is the same as sending a sheep into a tiger's den. Are humans that stupid?" Clan leader Qi Feng nodded. It was indeed inappropriate. Senior Commander Qi Meng tilted his head. "Maybe they thought we forgot about what happened before." Qi Wanjun rolled his eyes. "Even you haven't forgotten about it. How could they?" Qi Meng patted his head and laughed. "That's right." Qi Wanjun was speechless. He looked at Patriarch Qi Feng and said, "Acting in such a high-profile manner, There must be a conspiracy behind it. Humans have always been cunning and scheming. There must be something fishy going on. Father, don't be fooled. Clan leader Chi Feng breathed out a deep sigh and said, "Are we just going to let them run wild in this place? Once they leave our territory, it will be difficult to kill them again." Chi Meng said, "Those bastards must be playing a trick on us." "Oh, right, a trick of self-injury. It's an empty fort." Chi Wanjun rolled his eyes and looked at his father, Chi Feng. "Although it's possible, I still don't believe that the White Wheel tribe has such courage. What if they're being hunted by other enemies?" Chi Feng asked. Chi Wanjun hesitated for a moment and shook his head. "That's not right." Chi Feng said, "Even if it's not right, we still have to do it. Otherwise, we will have to watch them leave." Chi Meng. "Yes, sir," Senior Commander Chi Meng said in a low voice. Chi Feng waved his hand and shouted, "Immediately lead 10 teams to encircle and annihilate the White Wheel tribe." Chi Feng gritted his teeth. His eyes were bloodshot and filled with hatred. "Yes, Patriarch." Chi Meng accepted the order and left. Chi Wanjun sighed softly. Although he knew something was wrong, he had no evidence and no perception. There was nothing he could do. At the same time, the people of the White Wheel tribe stepped into this area. It was an area they were all too familiar with. They had lived here for countless years. They knew exactly where the heaven and earth fruits were, where the Wingly tribe was, where the mountains and rivers were. And when they returned, they missed this place. If they had a choice, no one would want to leave. They had no choice but to leave that day to preserve their lives and their tribe's bloodline. Now that they had returned, because they believed in Lin Feng. "Are you really okay, Brother Lin?" Bai Qi was still worried. She gritted her teeth and said, "The Qi clan should have received the news by now. Given Qi Feng's personality, he will definitely send experts to encircle and annihilate us. There is no luck to speak of." "That's good. It saves us some effort," Lin Feng said with a smile. He knew that he was in danger and knew what would happen soon, but this would not affect his decision. He was not afraid of the Qi clan that day, and now they were nothing in his eyes. In the Chan River, he could destroy the large Tiger Roar territory with ease. A mere medium-sized Wingly tribe was nothing. With his current strength, he could completely crush them. He had absolute confidence. It came from his absolute strength, and he had advanced to the peak of the Master of Black region. He could kill anyone in the northern continent. Along the way, Bai Qi was very nervous. From time to time, she would look around and panic at the slightest movement. On the other hand, Bai Tang was very calm. Her beautiful eyes glanced at Lin Feng from time to time. No one knew what she was thinking. Soon, the crowd stopped. Everyone's eyes were focused. Their mouths were slightly open as they looked at the scene in front of them. There was deep sadness and nostalgia in their days. Many of them even shed tears. They went home. They returned to the original location of the White Wheel tribe. The peach blossoms were still there, but the faces were completely different. This place. Bai Qi looked at Lin Feng in shock. Seeing that he was walking forward, she immediately followed him. "Brother Lin, what are you doing here?" Lin Feng nodded softly and said with a smile, "Didn't I say before that we would return to the original place and rebuild?" "Ah?" Bai Qi was stunned and her eyes widened. She thought that they would return to this area and find a new place to settle down. Who would have thought that Lin Feng meant to rebuild the tribe at the original place? This idea was too ridiculous because this area had already been discovered. A tribe that had been exposed, no matter how good the environment was, it was useless. Unless it was like Yurin City, where the powerful Yurin sovereign was holding the fort. However, the human race only had one Yurin sovereign. "Brother Lin, this place is known by the Qi clan," Bai Qi whispered. Lin Feng smiled. "If we destroy it, no one will know, right?" Chapter 1635. Exterminated. The Qi clan tribe. After hearing Lin Feng's lofty words again, Bai Qi had no way to refute. She could only smile bitterly. How could it be so easy to exterminate the Qi clan tribe? Putting aside their strength, the winged men were all proficient in the true meaning of space and could teleport easily. How could it be so easy to trap them? "Don't worry. Stay here at ease. I'm here." Lin Feng patted Bai Qi's shoulder and comforted her. Really? Bai Qi was still skeptical. Of course. Lin Feng smiled and turned to look into the distance. Instead of sneaking around, why don't we do it openly? It will save the Qi clan tribe the trouble of looking for us. If we stay here, they will come to us soon. It will save us a lot of trouble. Cold sweat dripped from Bai Qi's forehead. It turned out that the Qi clan tribe wasn't looking for trouble with them. They were the ones who were looking for trouble with the Qi clan tribe. That was a medium-sized tribe of the winged men. How could these shrimp soldiers and crab generals defeat him? Bai Qi looked at Lin Feng. Although she knew that he was strong, she still wasn't sure. Chan River was Chan River, and the land was ultimately the winged men's world. Besides, no matter how strong Lin Feng was, he was just one person. But how many winged men were there? Phew, Bai Qi sighed in her heart and closed her eyes. If it was a blessing, it wouldn't be a disaster. If it was a disaster, it couldn't be avoided. Since she believed in Lin Feng, she might as well believe in him to the end. Perhaps he was really powerful? After returning home, the people of the White Wolf tribe quickly got busy. They were all too familiar with everything here. Each of them had their own duties. The originally desolate tribe suddenly became lively. The dull atmosphere gradually became lively and cheerful. Lin Feng saw all this and smiled knowingly. This was what he wanted. Looking into the distance, Lin Feng was waiting. He clearly knew what the Qi clan tribe would do. They should be here soon. As he murmured, his eyes suddenly lit up. Lin Feng smiled. They were here. There was no need to hide such a powerful aura. The sky in the distance was pitch black, covering the entire sky. There was no need to count the number of experts from the Wingmen clan. However, this was all within Lin Feng's expectations. He wanted to capture the entire Qi clan in one fell swoop. Wasn't the Qi clan the same? Hiss, hiss, gasps could be heard from behind them. As the winged men approached, more and more powerful warriors from the White Wolf tribe saw them. That heavy pressure made it hard for them to breathe as usual. Winged Men clan, the ruler of the Tung Qi continent. Their appearance was like the arrival of kings, controlling and destroying everything. What should we do? Can it work? Damn it. One by one, the experts of the White Wolf tribe panicked. Although they were mentally prepared, they still felt different when they were in the same situation. That was the fear that came from being oppressed for a long time. Even the patriarch of the Bai clan, Bai Qi, looked at Lin Feng with a pale face, as if she was looking at her last hope. Boom! Rumble! Rumble! Thunder rumbled in the sky as the Winged Men clan's experts arrived. They looked down at the people of the White Wheel tribe with disdain. There was not even a trace of pity in their eyes. In their opinion, these humans would be wiped out soon. Their footprints would trample on this small tribe and devour everything. Humans were just ants. On the land, there was nothing that could stop the Winged Men clan. Ha ha! Qi Meng laughed loudly and was extremely arrogant. Little ones, the time for revenge has come. Attack! Trample all these ants to death. All of them. Bang! Along with great Commander Qi Meng's shout, countless streams of light suddenly appeared. The Winged Men clan's experts dove into the White Wheel tribe's territory. Their huge flesh wings tore the space apart, and cold smiles appeared on their faces. Bloodthirsty, bloodthirsty. They were looking forward to seeing the humans panic. Just like they did every time, it made them feel extremely good. However, this time, they miscalculated. Qi, an extremely fast light beam, appeared and tore the strongest winged man apart. It was so fast that the naked eye could not see it clearly. In the blink of an eye, several more light beams flew out. Qi, 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 along with the winged men's screams. Lin Feng's saber was like a hot knife cutting through butter. Not only that, after a few turns, Lin Feng quickly rushed toward Qi Meng with his saber. To catch bandits, first catch the leader. He was very clear about this principle. You're courting death. Great Commander Qi Meng roared and attacked Lin Feng crazily. However, in the next second, it was no different from other light beams, and the result was no different. As one of the 4 experts of the Qi tribe, Qi Meng could not even dodge half of Lin Feng's attack, and was killed directly. Fast, ruthless, and accurate. Lin Feng's attack contained all 3 aspects. Indeed, in front of Lin Feng, Great Commander Qi Ming was no different from the other wingmen experts, because the difference in strength was too great. Great Commander, how could this be? Great Commander, the Great Commander was killed. The winged men experts were stunned. It happened too fast. The Great Commander was still giving orders a second ago, and the next second, his head was separated from his body. However, before they had time to think about it, Lin Feng's attack quickly swept over. He was fearless in a one-on-one fight. The saber light flew, and each of them quickly killed one winged man expert after another. The Qi tribe, which had always been domineering, had no power to resist at all. In front of Lin Feng, they were like babies who could do nothing. Occasionally, they would attack, but they could not even touch the corner of his clothes. He was too strong. From the moment he killed Qi Ming, Lin Feng did not stop for a moment. In a short time, the Qi tribe was wailing like ghosts and howling like wolves. They suffered heavy casualties. They were not stupid. Seeing their companions die one after another, and soon it was their turn, the winged men experts chose to flee. Lin Feng did not care. He just glanced at them from the corner of his eye. In the next second, he continued to kill the Qi tribe experts who were stubbornly resisting. As for those who fled, they were just bait. To catch a big fish, one had to release some small fish first. The battlefield was quickly cleaned up by Lin Feng. Listening to the praises, Lin Feng did not stay. He arranged for Wu Jin to protect the tribe, and he followed the aura out. His ultimate goal was still the Qi tribe. He had to kill them. However, the Qi tribe was not easy to find, so Lin Feng came up with this idea. It could lure the snake out of its hole and reduce the enemy's strength. Most importantly, it could find a location of the Qi tribe. They had a deep grudge with the White Wool tribe, so the Qi tribe had to be eliminated. Lin Feng would not bury a time bomb beside the White Wool tribe. If that happened, he would not be able to leave in peace. As long as he eliminated the Qi tribe and helped the White Wool tribe stabilize, the rest was simple. Oh, here, Lin Feng followed a few small fish and finally found the location of the Qi tribe. Chapter 1636. Actually, the Qi clan wasn't that hard to find. After all, this was the strongest winged men tribe in this area. The tribe wouldn't hide, but since someone was leading the way, Lin Feng wouldn't waste it. At least, it was more efficient than searching alone. Finally here, Lin Feng stood outside the Qi clan and sighed with emotion. Once upon a time, he had fled to the Chan River for the Qi clan. It wasn't that he had offended the Qi clan, but that he didn't have enough strength to protect the White Wool tribe. But now there was no need. The Qi clan was no longer an invincible opponent, let alone a tower that could only be looked up to. Instead, it was a wall, the most ordinary stone wall. It was time to knock it down. Roar! In the distance, a few patrolling winged men saw Lin Feng and immediately roared angrily. They flapped their huge, fleshy wings, and the space trembled as they roared. They immediately bit at Lin Feng. How could a human step into the winged men's territory? Boom! Lin Feng merely took a step forward. His saber could not be seen. Only the shadow of his saber could be seen, and he killed those dumbfounded winged men. His entire body emitted a faint fighting spirit, but his face was expressionless. Step! Lin Feng stepped into the Qi clan. Qi clan leader's room. Wow! A figure flashed past. His face was as thin as bones, and his cheekbones were protruding. It was none other than the young clan leader, Qi Wanjun. At this moment, his brows were tightly furrowed. He took a heavy step forward and said in a heavy voice, "Father, the Grand Commander is dead." What? Clan leader Qi Feng stood up abruptly. His majestic figure was domineering as he widened his eyes. Qi Wanjun said seriously, "Father, there is something wrong with the White Wool tribe." He'd already mentioned it before, but his father was obstinate, and the price was that the Qi clan suffered heavy losses. Even the Grand Commander, Qi Ming, was beheaded. Now, even though what he said was true, Qi Wanjun wasn't happy at all. This was his home. Impossible. Clan leader Qi Feng shook his head in disbelief. How can a small human tribe be so powerful? It's impossible. Qi Feng put his hands behind his back. His thick black eyebrows were tightly knitted together as he paced back and forth in the large clan leader's room. "Father, the truth is before our eyes," Chi Wan-jun said in a deep voice. "This is no small matter. The White Wolf tribe is likely to call for reinforcements. If that human expert is strong enough, he will definitely pong." The violent spatial fluctuations outside caused Chi Wanjun's expression to change. Patriarch Chi Feng's body trembled slightly. His bloodshot eyes looked into the distance in shock, and his breathing became heavier. Enemy attack. How could there be an enemy attack? Could it be? Clan leader Chi Feng thought of the key point, and his face turned pale. The young clan leader Chi Wanjun was calm at this moment. He pursed his lips and said, "The other party must have come prepared. Father, we don't have to suffer a loss when the odds are against us. It's best to avoid them by 3 feet." Chi Feng said angrily, "I am the clan leader. If I abandon my clansmen and only care for myself, where will my prestige be in the future?" "But father," Chi Wanjun tried to persuade him. "There's no need to say more." Patriarch Chi Feng's eyes flashed with determination. He took a step forward and said, "Whether he is a human or a ghost, I will meet him. I don't believe that our dignified Chi clan will lose to a small human clan." With a cold snort, Patriarch Chi Feng stepped forward, leaving the young clan leader Chi Wanjun with a complicated expression. His eyes were uncertain. Kill. Outside the Chi clan, the flames of war were raging. If they could tolerate a human attacking them, they would not be the Winged Men clan. All kinds of attacks were launched at Lin Feng in succession, not giving him any chance to fight back. They were the famous Winged Men clan. For many eras, the Chi clan had been in charge of the entire area and had a great reputation. If they were defeated by a human youth today, it would be a great loss of face. But the truth was, Lin Feng did not care about the Chi clan's reputation at all. What he wanted was to destroy the Chi clan. Boom! Boom! Lin Feng attracted the attacks of the experts in the Chi clan. Then, one by one, they fell to the ground and turned into skeletons. These experts did not even have the chance to get close to him. The more, the better. The more he killed, the fewer would escape. Although it was almost impossible to completely destroy the Chi clan, and there would always be some fish that escaped the net, as long as he caught more big fish, the remaining shrimp soldiers and crabs would not be a threat even if they escaped. His target was Patriarch Chi Feng. Lin Feng's aura had already locked onto Chi Feng in the Patriarch's room. This included the other intermediate Black Domain Master who was in the same room as him. The Chi clan only had 2 intermediate Black Domain Masters left, so Lin Feng naturally wouldn't miss this opportunity. Patriarch is indeed the Patriarch. He didn't run away. Lin Feng smiled. Seeing the black shadow rushing out of the Patriarch's room, the crowd cheered excitedly. Wasn't that the Patriarch of the Chi clan, Chi Feng? Kill him, Patriarch. Patriarch is mighty. Kill this damned human. The arrival of Patriarch Chi Feng greatly boosted the morale of the clansmen. No matter which tribe, the Patriarch was the pillar, the strongest existence, and the spiritual symbol. As long as the Patriarch did not fall, the tribe would not fall. The clansmen followed Clan Chief Chi Feng as they charged at Lin Feng. Their momentum and fighting spirit had already surpassed Lin Feng's. In fact, they even seemed to be suppressing him. But strong momentum and high fighting spirit were not the same as winning the battle. Borderless saber technique, silent white. Lin Feng swung the saber in his hand. It was a casual attack that perfectly matched his body. With Lin Feng's current saber technique realm, it was too easy for him to perform the borderless saber technique, and its power could reach the limit. Although it could not be compared to the Silver Plateau saber technique, it was still the first saber technique that Lin Feng had created. How could its power be ordinary? Just the first move was enough. Where the saber came out, the surroundings were deathly, silent white. The winged clan members widened their eyes in shock and fell into a vast illusory and blurry concept. The strong saber energy swept across, instantly turning them into silent white. They had no power to fight back. The saber technique was so strong that one move had enveloped them all. Among them was clan leader Chi Feng, who was surrounded by the experts of the winged race. When he saw a white light fall from the sky, as if an angel had fallen into the mortal world, and a powerful force crushed him from all directions, Chi Feng roared hysterically, baring his fangs and brandishing his claws. Under Lin Feng's absolute suppression, there was no difference between an intermediate Black Domain Master and a beginner Black Domain Master. His defense was broken, and he could not resist. Then death. No! Patriarch Chi Feng's roar was filled with endless regret. If he had not been so stubborn and listened to his son, he would not have ended up like this. I hate it! Bang! With a final roar, Chi Feng's soul was annihilated. Not even his bones were left. Chapter 1637. They were dumbfounded. The winged race elites were all shocked. When clan leader Chi Feng rushed out, they were still full of hope and had placed their hopes on him, hoping that he would kill that damned human. Who would have thought that their clan leader was exactly the same as the others? In just an instant, they had become cannon fodder. In front of that human youth, although they were larger in size, they were like ants in his eyes that could be trampled on. Even someone as strong as clan leader Chi Feng could not even get close before he was killed. Clan leader is dead. No way. He's really dead. Clan leader couldn't even take one move. Run, everyone, run for your lives. Along with the horrified shouts, the winged race elites who had been watching suddenly scattered. They had completely lost their fighting spirit. Facing such a terrifying enemy, running away was the best choice. Moreover, running away was extremely easy for the winged race. They were all proficient in this because it was their talent. Spatial control talent. Their unique spatial talent allowed the winged race to stand upright in the Tung-Chi continent. If they could win, they would fight. If they could not win, they would run. Then, they would gather more powerful elites and fight together. They would bully the weak with numbers. Therefore, although clan leader Chi Feng's death was unexpected, the winged race did not care much. If there was no clan leader, they could just choose another one. However, without life, there would be no second chance. Therefore, as long as they could stay alive, they would have a chance to turn the tables and the power to take revenge. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. One by one, the winged race elites used spatial teleportation and prepared to leave. However, they suddenly felt a fluctuation in space, as if a wall had suddenly fallen in front of them. It was difficult to cross it. Boom! One of the winged race elites reacted the fastest and quickly blasted the wall. However, things did not go as he wished. The huge silver cross condensed on the wall like engravings, making it incomparably sturdy. In the next second, the winged race experts behind him died, tragically before they could even react. Spatial mystic treasure returned to zero. Only the original body could truly unleash the power of return to zero, including the black vortex in the bloodline. The spatial mystic treasure's power was maximized and had already locked the entire space. The winged race elites were completely dumbfounded. The ultimate move that they were so proud of was broken just like that. That kind of shock came from the depths of their hearts. They were the winged race. The winged men had supreme spatial talents and relied on space to make a living. Now that a human had used a spatial treasure to suppress all of their talents, it was simply aggrieving. He felt extremely aggrieved. Chi, Hong. Under Lin Feng's crushing attacks, the winged person powerhouse could not even survive for a few seconds. Before he could even react, he had already been killed. Without stopping, Lin Feng went to kill another group of winged person experts after killing a group of them. The more he killed, the better. Lin Feng clearly knew that even though he could seal the space and make it difficult for the winged men experts to use the true meaning of space, the winged men had wings. Even if he didn't have wings, it wouldn't be difficult for him to escape if he used his brain. Let's split up. As such, he could only pursue one path. The return to zero cross could suppress the spatial fluctuations, but it could not suppress them and leave directly. There were many things that the winged men experts did not know, including the large amount of spatial energy he used to execute the return to zero cross. If they had worked together and not been in a daze, they might not have been killed. But now Lin Feng used all his strength. Before the winged men experts could react, he killed them with all his might. The heavenly Dao Marrow Saber technique realm reigned supreme here. Charging into the Qi clan alone, Lin Feng had already achieved his goal. These winged men experts, who had been so arrogant not too long ago, could only run now. They had even lost the courage to fight. The winged men were not stupid. After batches of their tribesmen died, they finally found a way to escape and scattered like locusts. Lin Feng did not chase after them. He could not catch up to them. Even if he did, he would only be able to catch up to one of them. It would not change the overall situation. Moreover, he had already achieved his goal. More than 80% of the Qi clan had died in this battle. The remaining 20% were either injured, old, weak, women, or children. The Qi clan was no longer at its peak. The 4 great experts of the Qi clan, the 4 mid-level Black Region Masters. Now there was only one left. Lin Feng frowned. In his senses, the aura energy that was restraining him suddenly disappeared, but he did not know how it disappeared. A spatial treasure? Lin Feng was deep in thought. Even if it was not far off. They were both spatial treasures. His return to zero cross might not be able to gain an advantage. He had the black vortex, but the opponent was also a winged men expert with astonishing talent. In terms of spatial abilities, he was not strong enough. Bang! Lin Feng blasted open the door to the Patriarch's room. However, the figure in front of him was long gone. He had escaped. The last mid-level Black Region Master had escaped. With such an escape ability, he is definitely not an ordinary mid-level Black Region Master. Lin Feng instantly deduced. To the winged men, spatial treasures or similar treasures were rare. Therefore, the winged men experts who possessed these treasures all had extraordinary backgrounds. Not bad. Lin Feng didn't have any resentment. Even if he wanted to wipe out the entire Qi clan, this wasn't something he could do. Since so many winged men had escaped, it did not matter if one more escaped. However, if he comes again, he will not be so lucky. Lin Feng smiled slightly. Huff, huff. The sound of heavy breathing could be heard. It was the winged men youth with orange eyebrows, the young patriarch of the Qi clan, Qi Wanjun. At this moment, a resplendent ring was flashing on his finger. Lin Feng's guess was correct. Qi Wanjun did indeed have a treasure. Moreover, it was a very rare spatial treasure. It was not inferior to Lin Feng's return to zero cross. The winged men clan was very wealthy. However, there were simply too many winged men. Therefore, it appeared that every winged man was poor. However, the truly powerful winged men often had treasures on them. The winged men clan pursued an elite plan. They did not care about increasing their overall strength. When the waves washed away the sand, what was left was the essence. When the waves washed away the sand again, what was left was true gold. Father is dead. Father and son were connected by heart. Qi Wanjun had already sensed his father's death. Those who killed would be killed. Although this was the case, Qi Wanjun did not think that his father deserved to die. Father, I will definitely take revenge for this. Qi Wanjun gritted his teeth. His eyebrows were filled with regret and killing intent. He would not be defeated by a little setback. Because of his background, his experience, and his teacher, he was the disciple of one of the 2 great winged monarchs of the northern continent, the Mad Mist-winged monarch. Let's find Master first. Ask Master what the best thing to do is. Qi Wanjun's eyes were filled with killing intent. The ring in his hand flashed again. Qi Wanjun's body turned into nothingness and disappeared in an instant. Chapter 1638. The Qi family tribe was destroyed. A tribe that had been passed down for hundreds of eras had finally reached the altar. The overlord of this region would change hands. The northern continent would never lack powerhouses. Once the Qi family tribe fell, more tribes would soon rise. Lin Feng did not care about this. How far the White Wool tribe could go in the future would depend on their own luck. If a tribe was always under the wings of others, then this tribe would never improve and become independent. Now that the urgent situation had been resolved, the White Wheel tribe would have a long period of stability and smooth transition. Adversity was the best time to grow and transform. Master, Xiong Li and Jia Dong hurriedly came over. What did you find? Lin Feng asked. Xiong Li said, the Qi family tribe has 2 treasure vaults, one big and one small. The small one has 270,000 wing hearts, chaos cavern treasures. Just give me the approximate price, Lin Feng said. Xiong Li nodded. The small treasure vault has an estimated 760,000 wing hearts. The large treasure vault has an estimated 2,570,000 wing hearts. Lin Feng nodded. The Qi family tribe was worthy of being a medium-sized tribe. They were quite wealthy. When he had brought all the treasures to the Xiong family tribe, all of them added together could not compare to the small treasure vault of the Qi family tribe. With his current strength, ordinary treasures like the heaven and earth fruit were useless. Therefore, he only needed to sell them for wing hearts. In the Tung Qi continent, wing hearts were a very valuable currency. The winged men could also devour their own wing hearts to strengthen themselves. Of course, the most valuable thing to the winged men was their wings. The stronger the bloodline, the more valuable the wings were. Absorbing the bloodline could help the winged men evolve. Even if I devour this huge wing heart, it won't improve my spatial ability by much. Lin Feng's main body had reached the peak of the Black Region Master. Although his spatial comprehension was not strong, it was not weak either. It was very difficult to improve from the Black Region Master level. Even the winged men, who had strong spatial talents, were stuck at this step. It was difficult to make the next step. I can't improve because of my spatial talent. Or is it something else? Lin Feng was also curious. With the innate ability of the Winged Clan, he didn't believe that it would be difficult to surpass the Black Region Master's spatial comprehension. However, he still didn't know how to surpass the Black Region Master. If I continue to cultivate here, I believe I will find an answer. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. When he returned to the White Wheel tribe, everything was flourishing. On one hand, they were rebuilding the old site and settling down. On the other hand, they were looking for other hidden places to build a new address. Bai Qi and Bai Tang were extremely busy. There were too many things to do after returning to their hometown. Lin Feng settled down in the White Wool tribe. On the one hand, he still needed to look after the White Wool tribe for a while to prevent the Qi clan from coming back for revenge. After all, the Qi clan had lost an intermediate Black Domain Master. Young clan leader, Qi Wanjun, Lin Feng murmured. This was the information he had asked Xiong Li to find out. The Qi family had a great reputation in this region, and it was no secret that they had 4 intermediate Black Domain Masters. Now that he had killed 3 of them, the remaining one was on the verge of being revealed. If it was an ordinary winged person, then so be it. However, Qi Wanjun was the young clan leader. Seeing the Qi family destroyed and his father killed by him, unless he was cold-blooded and heartless, he would definitely think of a way to take revenge. Moreover, he had another identity, Mad Mistwing Monarch's disciple. Lin Feng smiled. The Mad Mistwing Monarch and the Cool Strange Wing Monarch were the strongest winged men in the entire northern continent. Every era, the eastern continent, the southern continent, and the western continent would throw countless winged men into the great furnace that was the northern continent, letting them kill each other here, the survival of the fittest. After experiencing endless battles, those who could survive were all elites. Those who reached the Winged Monarch's level were enough to return to their original continent and become the elites under the Winged Monarch. However, there were many who were unwilling to return, and the Mad Mistwing Monarch was one of them. It was better to be the head of a chicken than the tail of a phoenix. I wonder if Qi Wanjun can invite his master. Lin Feng actually wanted to spar with the Mad Mistwing Monarch. Now that his main body had also reached the peak of Black Domain Master, he was on par with the 2 Wing Monarchs. When he stepped into the northern continent, he still had to look up. Now it was time to cross these 2 mountains. Lin Feng didn't have a sense of belonging to the humans of the Tung Qi continent, but the challenge of an expert made him excited. Now, no matter how protective the Mad Mistwing Monarch is, he shouldn't be able to find the time. Lin Feng smiled. because soon a major event would happen in the northern continent. A major event that everyone was looking forward to. Human Sovereign Yu was challenging one of the three-wing monarchs, the mountain-breaking wing monarch. The outcome of this challenge would determine the fate of Yurin City, the fate of humanity, and the structure of the northern continent. As one of the strongest winged people in the northern continent, the Mad Mist-wing monarch was very busy and nervous. As long as Yurin Sovereign is defeated, then Quanlan Wing Monarch and Kukiki Wing Monarch will definitely lead the Winged Men clan and launch a direct attack on Yurin City. Not only Lin Feng knew this result, all the humans knew it. It was no longer a secret, including the fact that the war between the winged people and humans had already begun. Human Sovereign Yu's strength is above all the experts of the northern continent, including the existence of the two wing monarchs. Then his strength must be a peak Black Domain Master who is stronger than an advanced Black Domain Master. Lin Feng was very clear now. One's position determined one's field of vision. In the North Chan River, he had met the East Chan King, South Chan King, and West Chan King. No matter which one of them was stronger than the T-Rex clone, especially the East Chan King, who was the strongest. One had to know that the T-Rex clone was also a peak Black Domain Master expert, although it was just a beginner. The three-wing monarchs were able to suppress the East Chan King, South Chan King, and West Chan King, especially the mountain-breaking wing monarch, the Eastern Continent's wing monarch. His strength was definitely stronger than the East Chan King. The difficult part was estimating. Human Sovereign Yu is doomed in this battle, Lin Feng thought. No wonder the two wing monarchs of the northern continent couldn't wait to send troops to eliminate the threat of Yurin City. Others might not know how strong the mountain-breaking wing monarch was, but the two wing monarchs definitely knew. However, Human Sovereign Yu's talent is extraordinary, and he is also a super genius rarely seen in tens of thousands of years. The result might not be one-sided. Moreover, since he dares to challenge the mountain-breaking wing monarch, he must have a certain level of confidence. Otherwise, there is no reason for him to gamble the future of Yurin City and the Yu clan. Oh, Lin Feng let out a long breath, and his slightly furrowed brows slowly relaxed. Only the person involved knew the secret behind it. However, it would soon no longer be a secret. 3 years. There are only 3 years left before the 100-year battle between Human Sovereign Yu and the mountain-breaking wing monarch. Lin Feng was looking forward to it. Chapter 1639. After settling down in the White Will tribe, everything was normal. It was as if he had returned to the days when he had just entered the Tung Chi continent. He had bitterly cultivated step by step in the White Wheel tribe and increased his strength. Now, the White Wheel tribe had changed greatly. Lin Feng himself was the same, absorbing the essence of the river of light from the intersection and increasing his law of light. Lin Feng would not waste these 3 years. Unlike before, he was no longer a guest, but an honored guest. He was the benefactor who had single-handedly saved the White Wheel tribe. In the White Wheel tribe, Lin Feng's status was incomparably high. Just his residence alone was completely isolated from the tribesmen, afraid that they would disturb Lin Feng and affect his cultivation. Lin Feng had left the first princess and Violet Electric in the North River. One was in charge of the North River, while the other was focused on cultivation. In Lin Feng's opinion, Violet Electric had the ability to become stronger. She just lacked the opportunity. The two winged race slaves, Jiadong and Xiong Ti, had been sent out by Lin Feng long ago to gather information. After all, they were winged race and were more proficient in this aspect. As for Wu Jin, he was Lin Feng's personal guard. Now, Wu Jin had a lot of trust in Lin Feng. It came from his heart, not from a soul contract. As a slave, he clearly knew his master's strength and potential. Although his master was not as strong as he was at his peak, he knew that it would not be long before his master surpassed him in all aspects. Suddenly, whoosh, Lin Feng opened his eyes, and a ray of light shot out. Wu Jin also let out a soft sound and turned his head to look into the distance, half a beat slower than Lin Feng. As expected, they came, Lin Feng said softly. 101 winged race people. That's not a small number, Wu Jin said in a deep voice. Lin Feng smiled. One of the auras was the one he had sensed in the Qi tribe before, the young chief Qi Wanjun who had escaped. This time, not only had he returned, but he had also brought 100 winged race experts with him. These were not the ordinary winged race people of the Qi tribe. Among the 100 winged ones, the weakest was an intermediate black domain master. Among them, there were 9 advanced black domain masters and 1 advanced black domain master. His combat strength was incomparably powerful. Master, please hand it over to this subordinate. Wu Jin cupped his hands and said in a low voice. Go ahead. Lin Feng nodded and said casually. With Wu Jin's strength as a peak master of the Black region, dealing with the 101 winged people was as easy as flipping his hand. They weren't even on the same level. Not every battle needed to be fought personally, especially when the opponent was too weak. After the trip to the North River, these ordinary winged person experts were no longer enough. In the sky above the White Wheel tribe, a black mass of winged person soldiers was approaching. I'll have to trouble senior brother this time, Qi Wanjun said gratefully. It's a piece of cake. The winged man who spoke had a head of golden hair. He raised his head slightly, and there was extreme confidence in his eyes. Since Master has spoken, senior brother will naturally help junior brother. Qi Wanjun nodded heavily. I'll have to trouble senior brother to capture him alive. I want to personally kill that human and avenge father. The golden-haired winged man laughed. It's simple. It's just a human. The wingman army I brought this time is enough to deal with him. Qi Wanjun's eyes lit up, and he nodded in satisfaction. None of the 100 winged ones were weak. The weakest was on par with him. Dealing with a mere human and a small tribe? Wouldn't it be easy? We're almost there, senior brother. Qi Wanjun was already impatient. Although Master didn't agree, with senior brother accompanying him, it was enough for him to take revenge. Senior brother's strength was definitely many times stronger than that human. The golden-haired winged man softly grunted. Suddenly, he looked into the distance and couldn't help but let out a soft cry of surprise. You mean a human? The golden-haired winged man looked at Qi Wanjun. Yes. Qi Wanjun didn't know what was going on. The golden-haired winged man frowned slightly and pointed forward. Then why is it a demon? Demon? Qi Wanjun was stunned. Following the golden-haired winged man's finger, he saw a greenish-black muscular demon standing in the distance with his chest puffed out. His upper body was naked, and there was a heart-wrenching scar that extended from his chest all the way to his tail. The broken horn on his head arched, and with a loud roar, his aura erupted. Bang! Like a cannonball, the muscular demon charged forward without any explanation. Terrifying energy filled his entire body as he used his physical strength to resist the attack. Counterattack. The battle was on the verge of erupting. Bang! 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 Continuous attacks erupted, and the killing intent shook the heavens. That muscular demon was precisely Wu Jin. With his strength, it wasn't difficult for him to kill a group of 100 winged ones. As a servant, he naturally had to share his master's burdens. In addition, demons were extremely fond of killing. Blood and killing intent filled the air. Wu Jin was having a great time killing, and his eyes were completely bloodshot. He punched out furiously. Not a single winged one could block Wu Jin's punch, even if his hands were bound by heavy shackles. Wu Jin was still a top-tier expert, regardless of whether he was heavily restricted or not. What's going on? The golden-haired demon senior brother roared. He completely didn't expect that the group he was leading would collapse in an instant, and so quickly. The sudden appearance of a demon had completely disrupted their rhythm. Now that they were fighting chaotically, this demon's combat strength was displayed to the fullest. Every punch landed on flesh, and corpses littered the field. Damn it! The golden-haired demon senior brother charged forward. But in an instant, bang! Wu Jin's aura suddenly became stronger, going from a low aura to a completely suppressive one. This was Wu Jin's little trick to completely annihilate this group of winged ones. What this aura is? Although the golden-haired demon senior brother's strength was ordinary, his vision was extraordinarily high. The aura that the demon in front of him suddenly erupted with was tens of times stronger than normal. It was fine if he didn't make a sound, but when he did, he shocked everyone. Run! The golden-haired demon reacted quickly. Cold sweat dripped from his forehead as he hurriedly fled. Facing such an opponent, even if he used all his strength, he wouldn't be able to change the outcome. It was already difficult for him to turn his fleeing body around. The demon in front of him had a lofty face. He punched out with a majestic aura, stirring up the power of space. The golden-haired demon tried his best to block, but due to the absolute difference in strength, he was suppressed and killed. Senior brother. Qi Wanjuan's eyes widened as he shouted hoarsely. He didn't expect that someone as strong as his senior brother would be killed in a single exchange. Too fast. That terrifying aura instantly spread out like a plague. Qi Wanjun quivered. He finally understood how his senior brother died. His strength was far inferior to his senior brother's. If he didn't run now, when would he? The ring on his hand flashed. Qi Wanjun used the same trick and instantly teleported away. But in the next instant, whoosh, a golden light flashed. Gray Slave and his heaven-capturing net instantly fell down. The powerful treasure of destiny completely countered Qi Wanjuan's spatial ring. Under Qi Wanjuan's shocked gaze, Gray Slave directly picked up the heaven-capturing net and laughed foolishly. Qi Wanjun captured alive. To be continued. Translator, Atlas Studios editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 1640. After letting Qi Wanjun escape once, how could Lin Feng let him escape a second time? Therefore, this time, Wu Jin was the vanguard, while Lin Feng himself was the overall situation. Looking down at the winged person army, he had already locked onto Qi Wanjun. Seeing that he wanted to escape again, the heaven-capturing net fell down. In front of such a treasure of destiny, spatial treasures were useless. That day, the violet electric was like this. No! Qi Wanjun struggled with all his might, but the golden net was like a snake. The more he struggled, the tighter the heaven-capturing net became. In the end, Qi Wanjun was tied up like a meat dumpling. He couldn't even speak. Lin Feng raised his hand and picked up the heaven-capturing net. After Qi Wanjun fell into the net, the winged person army was scared out of their wits and fled. Although Lin Feng and Wu Jin were strong, they couldn't wipe out the entire winged person army. In the end, more than a dozen winged person escaped. It didn't matter. To Lin Feng, if he really wanted to capture all of them in one net, it would just take a little effort. However, it was useless. It didn't matter if these winged person escaped or not. Even if he wiped out this winged person army, he wouldn't be able to block the news. The mad mist-winged monarch would definitely know about this. Moreover, he wasn't afraid of the mad, mist-winged monarch finding out. Even if he didn't come to find him, he would find him sooner or later. After leaving the North River, Lin Feng's target was no longer the North Continent, but the entire Tongqi continent. If he couldn't even get past the mad, mist-winged monarch, how could he face the three stronger winged monarchs? The Qi family tribe was officially destroyed. After Qi Wanjun was captured, they lost all their power. Although there were still a few members of the Qi family, they could no longer cause any trouble. In the North Continent, where danger lurked everywhere, their first consideration was not to revive their tribe, but to survive. Although they were winged people, there were also killings among them. Just like how humans often killed each other, the ones who killed the most winged people in the North Continent weren't the River Demon tribe or humans, but the winged people themselves. However, these were all tacitly allowed by the three emperors. Originally, the Northern Continent was an abandoned continent, a testing ground, a furnace for the strong. Is it okay to spread the news? Lin Feng was curious. There are only advantages and no disadvantages. Bai Tang said, the winged men are not united. Even the Qi clan is divided internally. In terms of unity, they are far inferior to us humans. Now that the Qi clan is dead, the rest of the winged men in this region will be overjoyed. Lin Feng nodded. Therefore, the White Wolf tribe leaked the news and told all the winged ones in this area that the Qi clan had perished at their hands. He didn't mind going to the White Wolf tribe to take the credit as long as it was beneficial to them. Thinking about the enmity between the White Wheel tribe and the Chi tribe, they returned in such a high-profile manner. In addition, the Chi clan had just been destroyed. The timing was too coincidental. Rather than being suspected secretly, it was better to openly admit it. That way, the other winged men tribes would not dare to act rashly for fear that they would follow in the footsteps of the Chi clan. You are more familiar with the development of the tribe than I am. Lin Feng smiled. He didn't intend to get involved in the affairs of the White Wheel tribe. Now that he could get out of it, it couldn't be better. Bai Tang smiled. The two chatted for a while and then separated. They each had their own matters to attend to. Bai Tang was now in charge of a lot of tribal affairs. Bai Qi was more in charge of the overall situation. As for the internal affairs of the tribe, they all fell to Bai Tang. As for Lin Feng, in addition to cultivation, it was still cultivation. Wild mist territory, wind and sand filled the sky. In the endless desert, cruel storms swept through the area. There are natural barriers everywhere. The harsh environment created the wild mist wing king. He was one of the two wing kings who were as famous as the cool and strange wing king. One of the two strongest winged men experts in the northern continent. The wild mist wing king was well known in the northern continent. His thin yellow eyebrows rose, and a tuft of golden yellow hair rose on his forehead, revealing a pair of sand-like eyes. They were sharp and cold, like the endless desert. The faintly discernible aura instantly caused the surroundings to turn cold. "What's wrong, master?" The one who spoke was the eldest disciple of the wild Mist Wing King, and also his most helpful right-hand man. "Little Wing, King Ganxiu. Your two junior brothers are dead," the wild Mist Wing King said coldly, a light flashing in his sand-like eyes. Two junior brothers were dead? Little Wing King Ganxiu was taken aback, quickly filtering through his mind, and asked, "Junior brother Qi and junior brother Luan?" The wild Mist Wing King nodded. They were too careless. Ganxiu hesitated for a moment, and said, "Perhaps it's because the humans are too cunning. To return in such a high-profile manner and destroy the Qi family tribe, there must be an expert behind them. It seems that this human expert is likely to have advanced to become a master of the Black Domain." The Wild Mist Wing King and Little Wing King both knew about Qi Wanjun. It's just that they temporarily did not have the time and energy to deal with it. So they casually found a junior brother to help Qi Wanjun. Who would have thought that? They would be completely wiped out. Oomph. The Wild Mist Wing King coldly snorted. Although the death of his two disciples was nothing to him, and both of their strengths were average, it was hard for him to swallow this. He had no face left. In any case, he was one of the two great wing kings of the northern continent. Now he was slapped in the face by a mere human. If the cool and strange wing king knew about this, how long would he laugh at him? "Master, should we send a few more junior brothers over?" Little Wing King Ganxiu asked. "There's no need for that. Before figuring out the opponent's strength, don't act rashly and increase the casualties." Although the Wild Mist Wing King was angry, he still maintained his absolute calmness. Then, Ganxiu looked at the Wild Mist Wing King. "Wait, very soon, there will be a result of Emperor Yu's challenge." The Wild Mist Wing King said in a deep voice. "Compared to this challenge, everything else is secondary. We have to do our best and make all the preparations to fight this battle, destroy Yurin City, and completely exterminate the human race." "Yes, master." Although Lin Feng had captured Qi Wanjun alive, he had already killed him. There was no point in keeping him alive. Instead, a long night would bring more trouble. Directly killing him was the best method. He was not afraid of the Wild Mist Wing King's revenge. What come would come. Lin Feng was also patiently waiting. Day after day passed, month after month. In the blink of an eye, 3 years had passed. 3 years of peace and quiet, but also 3 years of continuous undercurrents. Not only him, but all the humans were waiting for the arrival of this day. They were both looking forward to it and nervous. They were actually afraid and excited. The legend of the northern continent, the human super genius Emperor Yu, was going to challenge one of the 3 emperors of the Wing clan. Mountain-breaking Wing Emperor. The result was incomparably anticipated. At this time, Lin Feng had already left the White Wheel tribe and stepped into Yurin City alone. This was the place where humans gathered. To be continued. For the latest novel updates, please visit the website. Chapter 1641. Returning to Yurin City, Lin Feng didn't feel any fluctuations in his heart. If he was alone, he would have no burden at all. He could attack and defend as he pleased. Although Yurin City was controlled by Yurin Clan was the only clan with only Yurin Emperor as their strongest warrior. There was a clear gap in the hierarchy. Otherwise, the strongest clan in the human race wouldn't be the Thunder Clan. They had the strongest human, Emperor Yu, and the only large human city, Yurin City. However, the overall strength of the Yurin Clan couldn't compare to the Thunder Clan. On one hand, it could be seen how strong the Thunder Clan was. On the other hand, it could be seen that the Yurin Clan was inferior in other aspects. Other than Emperor Yu, whose strength was unknown, the Yurin Clan only had one peak expert who had advanced to the Black Region Master Realm. They only had 2 normal experts who had advanced to the Black Region Master Realm. As for the Thunder Clan, they had 3 of the 5 peak experts who had advanced to the Black Region Master Realm. As for the normal experts who had advanced to the Black Region Master Realm, they had a total of 9. No matter in which aspect, they were superior to the Yurin Clan. I'm back. Lin Feng looked at the gates of Yurin City and sighed. Although it hadn't even been 100 years since he left, it felt like tens of thousands of years. Of course, he wasn't here to submit a mission, nor was he here for the Yurin Secret Realm. These things were no longer important to him. He came here to obtain first-hand news about the battle between Emperor Yu and the mountain-breaking Wing Emperor. Today is the day of the battle. I believe that the results will come soon. Lin Feng's eyes shone as he strode forward. At the gates of Yurin City, groups of human experts were on guard. They were formed by ordinary human experts who had joined the Yurin Clan. They earned wing hearts through work and stayed in Yurin City. For the majority of human cultivators, staying in Yurin City was already a supreme honor. Moreover, this was the safest place in the northern continent. Enter. Line up. Enter one by one. What's the rush? The city guards maintained order. The wide copper gates were wide open. This was the only way to enter Yurin City. The huge Yurin City was like a heavily guarded fortress. The other places were also heavily guarded. Blending into the crowd, Lin Feng calmly entered. The city guards didn't stop them. They just did a routine inspection. Basically, as long as they didn't have a murderous intent and had a human aura, they would let them in. Anil, don't you think that young man from earlier looked a little familiar? The city guard Wu Gang asked. That young man? Looking at Lin Feng's back, Wu Gang frowned and said, I also felt it just now. I seem to have seen it somewhere before. The 2 city guards racked their brains. Suddenly, the city guard Hu Ding's expression changed. He slapped his thigh and said, I remember now. He's a wanted criminal. Because he killed a comrade, he is wanted. Killing him will give you 100,000 winged hearts. Yes, it's him. That wanted criminal called Lin Feng. Wu Gang also reacted. As city guards, their ability to identify people was quite strong. However, there were too many wanted posters, and there were too many people just now, so they couldn't see clearly. The 2 shuddered. They looked at each other and reported to the city guard commander, Chi Dinhu. The latter glared and immediately roared. What are you waiting for? Follow me and capture this wanted criminal. Following Chi Dinhu's roar, the entire city gate quieted down. The originally heavy traffic stopped. The people who were about to enter the city were stunned. Let's go. Chi Dinhu roared. His eyes were filled with killing intent. Oh, Lin Feng had just left the city gate when he stopped his footsteps. The sound of wind whistling came from behind him. Cold killing intent came from a group of 10 people. Moreover, their auras were very familiar. They were the city guards who were guarding outside the gate. So I was still discovered. Lin Feng was not afraid. Instead, he laughed. He knew his own situation. That day, Yu Ju led the Qilin team to kill him. However, he resolved the situation and killed the entire Qilin team. Unfortunately, the son of the Heavenly Dragon escaped. A despicable person who schemed against him behind his back. He indeed did not understand the son of the Heavenly Dragon, but the Golden Lion Sage King knew him very well. He indeed reported to the Yu clan and wanted to kill me. After all, he had killed Yu. Lin Feng's gaze swept across the distance. Figures were rapidly approaching him. Their auras were getting stronger. When he killed the Qilin team, only one person had escaped. Only one person knew the ins and outs of the whole matter. The son of the heavenly dragon. It's him. That's right. He's the wanted criminal Lin Feng. Quick, catch him. Don't let him escape. Wait, there are peddlers there. Everyone, be careful. Lin Feng was currently on a busy street. There were all kinds of peddlers and vendors everywhere. With his strength, even if he did not use all of his strength, he could still use the geographical advantage to escape. However, there was no need. This time, he did not return to Yurin City to be a street rat. The city guard were full of vigor, especially Qi Dinhu. His face and neck were flushed red. It was not because of bloodline, but because of nervousness and anticipation. They unsheathed their swords and sabers, all of them charging towards Lin Feng. However, in an instant, a strong wind appeared in front of him. Boom, 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 boom. The city guards felt their chests go numb. They completely lost consciousness and fell backward. They were defeated in one move. Gasps could be heard from the surroundings. The crowd was dumbfounded. That was a city guard commander. But now he was so weak that he was like a rubber ball that was sent flying with a single kick. Didn't Commander Qi Dinhu advance to Black Region Master? Yeah. Among the commanders, his strength is enough to be considered one of the best. The rumors are all false. Look, a sharp-horned human pointed to the center. He's not a match at all. He can't even get close to him. His previous strength was all just a bluff. The crowd could not help but laugh. This caused Qi Dinhu to be unable to restrain his anger. However, he did not even have the strength to speak and could only swallow his anger. Bang! A cluster of lights similar to fireworks shot into the sky and exploded, forming a boundless scene. Then, it turned into wisps of green smoke that did not dissipate. Oh, you notified your helpers? Lin Feng asked curiously. Commander Qi Dinhu clenched his teeth and stared with his eyes wide open. That's right. I notified the Yu clan. Brat, don't think that you are so good just because you defeated me. Just wait for your death. Ha ha ha. Lin Feng laughed. You seem to have forgotten to say something. What? Qi Dinhu was stunned. Provoke me, Lin Feng said, and imitated Qi Dinhu lying on the ground. He stared with his eyes wide open and revealed a sinister expression. If you have the ability, don't run. Qi Dinhu's face turned red. He instantly bared his teeth and said angrily, Don't be so proud. When all of us are here, it will be the time of your death. Is that so? Lin Feng smiled casually. Xiao Xiao's body is slightly better. She will be back to normal from tomorrow onwards. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 1642. Ignoring Commander Qi Dinhu, Lin Feng turned around and walked into the main street. Although he had not returned to Yurin City for a long time, there were not many changes. As he walked on the street, the crowd avoided him with fearful gazes. They were afraid of angering this fiend and being mistaken for an accomplice by the Yurin race. Lin Feng ignored them and looked around the northern continent. It was the only human city in the entire Tongqi continent. Looking around, there were all kinds of human clans. Rather than saying that it was a place where dragons and snakes mixed together, it was more like a large-scale sanctuary. According to Bai Tang, according to incomplete statistics, there were hundreds of thousands of human clans in Yurin City. This included more than 80% of the human clans. The remaining 20% are so poor that they can't even afford to live in the area around Yurin City. Lin Feng sighed. Compared to the huge human forces in the Milky Way, the humans in the Tongqi continent were struggling at death's door. It cannot be helped. The Winged Clan was too powerful. The Tongqi continent was filled with space energy, which was like adding wings to a tiger for the Winged Clan. There was no doubt that they would become the overlord. It was already very good that the humans could survive until now. Once Emperor Yuran is defeated, Kuanglan and Kukiki will definitely attack. It's only a matter of time before Yurin City is destroyed. At that time, more humans will be displaced, and more human bloodlines will be extinct. The Tongchi continent is so big that there will be no safe place for humans to live. Lin Feng sighed in his heart. He could imagine how tragic the situation would be. Shaking his head, Lin Feng stopped thinking about it. Suddenly, Lin Feng exclaimed in surprise. He stopped and turned around to look. He saw a little boy with tattered clothes and a dirty face following him. He wore a straw sandal on one of his feet and was barefoot on the other. He was limping. There was no expression on his face, but his eyes were shining with determination. As he stopped, the little boy also stopped and raised his head to look at him. "Why are you following me?" Lin Feng asked curiously. The little boy pursed his lips, and his face turned pale. "Senior, I want to be your disciple." There was an uproar. "Let's go, kid. The city guard will be here soon." "That's right. Don't get killed as an accomplice." The people of Yurin City were extremely respectful and afraid of the Yurin race. Even the Nightmare Thunder tribesmen would not cause trouble in Yurin City. Therefore, in the eyes of others, Lin Feng's actions were no different from that of a dead man. Killing people in Yurin City was a provocation. He was simply courting death. Lin Feng smiled indifferently. "Did you hear that? Don't follow me. You'll be implicated." However, the little boy's gaze was still firm. With a stubborn expression, he bit his lips again and followed. Lin Feng smiled and didn't mind, continuing to move forward. After walking for a while, Lin Feng stopped again. The little boy continued to follow behind him, persevering. "Let's go. I won't accept you as my disciple," Lin Feng said. The little boy raised his head, and his eyes revealed an incomparable desire. "Senior, please accept me as your disciple." "No, even a servant is fine. I want to follow you." Lin Feng laughed involuntarily. Strange things happened every year. He had just entered Yurin City and encountered such a thing. There was even someone who took the initiative to want to be a servant. Raising his brows slightly, Lin Feng was also curious in his heart. Although the restrictions to stay in Yurin City were not very great, it was not a place that any ordinary human could stay. Looking at the appearance of this little boy, he had clearly stayed here for a long time. However, why was he so down and out? "Senior, please take me in. I could do anything." Seeing that Lin Feng did not speak, the little boy knelt on the ground with a thud and kowtowed repeatedly. This action caused the surrounding people to smile, their eyes filled with ridicule and ridicule. "Dong, dong, dong." The little boy kowtowed very heavily, his pointed ears trembling. He did not dare to look at Lin Feng, only kowtowing continuously, afraid that Lin Feng would refuse. "Why did you find me?" Lin Feng said. "Because, senior, you're very strong." The little boy did not hide the burning light in his eyes. "Very strong?" Lin Feng could not help but smile. He did not use much strength against the city guards. However, perhaps in the little boy's eyes, this kind of strength was already very strong. "Do you know who my enemy is?" Lin Feng smiled. "I know, the city guards." The little boy was obviously not stupid. "Then do you know which force is behind the city guards?" Lin Feng asked again. The little boy nodded heavily. "Yurin clan. Then you still want to take me as your master?" Lin Feng was curious. The little boy gritted his teeth, the fierceness in his eyes undisguised. "I hate the Yurin clan." Lin Feng could not help but smile. So that was the case. Sweeping his gaze, the surrounding people were all talking and laughing, all pointing at the little boy, occasionally letting out mocking laughter. In their eyes, he was very stupid, even daring to provoke the Yurin clan. This little boy was even more stupid. He was completely courting death. Looking at the little boy in tattered clothes, from his thin body, one could see the strength and unyielding. The stubbornness in his eyes was like a boulder. This was a child who had encountered adversity and was already very mature at such a young age. In him, one could see a shadow of oneself in the past. "What is your name?" Lin Feng asked. The little boy was startled and hurriedly said, "My name is Little Jia, Senior." "Name?" Lin Feng asked. The human race valued surnames very much. Unexpectedly, the little boy lowered his head and shook it stubbornly. "I don't have a surname." Lin Feng stared at the little boy. He was obviously hiding a story, but if he did not want to say, Lin Feng would not force him. After pondering for a moment, Lin Feng said, I can take you in, but at least you have to let me see your value. Lin Feng's lips curled up slightly, and he pointed into the distance. There, the city guards are here. Go and fight. The surroundings were in an uproar. What a joke. Go quickly, little guy. He is playing with you. That's right. We can testify for you. There is no need to go to death with this guy. There were many people with evil intentions, but there were also good people, especially this little boy who looked so pitiful, causing many people to feel pity for him. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The sound of air being pierced rang out continuously, and a black mass of over 100 auras rushed over from the distance. The one leading was a high-level black region master, which was already quite impressive for the city guards. The senior commander is here. It is Senior Commander Yuao, so handsome. The sharp-eyed martial artist had already seen him and shouted excitedly. Lin Feng looked at the little boy, only to see him clenching his teeth, a trace of stubbornness in his eyes, shooting out a sharp light, clenching his fists, his body trembling violently. He suddenly raised his head, his thin figure very tenacious. Looking at his back, Lin Feng saw courage, strength, and hatred. He was like a wolf. He was not fully grown, but he already had fangs. Chapter 1643. Grand Commander, Yu Qing. Because he wasn't from a Yu human clan, although he was a high-level Black Region Master, he was only the Grand Commander of the City Guards. Capture him. Yu Qing stood in the middle of the group and gave the order. His expression was calm. To Yu Qing, he had seen too many of such scenes. In the air, the city guards wearing the same uniform rushed over. All kinds of weapons clanged, and the elemental fluctuations in the area were intense. The surrounding crowd had already spread out, leaving a large empty area for fear of being caught in the crossfire. Reckless. In Yu Qing's eyes, Lin Feng, who was not far away, was already a dead man. Anyone who dared to provoke the Yu human clan in Yu human city would die. At this moment, in terms of numbers, Lin Feng was 1 against 100, and in front of Lin Feng, there was a thin figure holding a dagger with both hands, his teeth chattering. He didn't attack, because he couldn't. The Black Region Master's aura was so strong that although it wasn't directed at him, it still affected him. If it was an ordinary child, even if they weren't suppressed by the aura, their legs would have already gone soft. But even though the little boy's legs were trembling, he still stood there firmly. In front of him, countless experts were rushing over, waiting to blast his soul away with a single blow, but he didn't retreat half a step. Stubbornness, persistence. In his eyes, there wasn't a trace of hesitation. Ah! Screams came from the surroundings. A sword light mercilessly swept across the boy's neck. It was so fast that he couldn't block it at all. The boy's eyes widened, as if he saw the arrival of the death god. His strength was on a completely different level from the city guards. At this moment, a figure appeared in front of him, as if it had descended from the sky. It wasn't tall, but it gave him an indescribable sense of security. Looking at the figure in front of him, the boy's mouth was slightly open, and his trembling body had already stabilized. Senior, the little boy muttered to himself. The newcomer was Lin Feng. Without even looking at the sword light in front of him, Lin Feng raised his hand, and the black hell, soul-severing blade was unsheathed. In an instant, a cold black light shone. The ordinary blade, became incomparably powerful because of the heaven's path. Pulling out the blade, swinging it. A half-arc appeared like moonlight. It was simple and fast, and the more ordinary it was, the more powerful it was. The city guards who were charging at the front were preparing to capture Lin Feng and claim credit for their actions. But who would have thought that a sudden bright light would descend and directly interrupt them? In an instant, a sharp pain attacked his heart. Blood blossomed in the air as more than 10 figures were torn apart by Lin Feng's casual slash. The intense saber energy entered their bodies and swallowed everything. Without waiting for the surrounding crowd to react, Lin Feng's figure moved. Continuously waving his saber seemed to cut through space. The saber light could only be seen, but not the saber shadow. The saber light was like a spider's web, surrounding the remaining dozens of city guards. Strangulation. Chi, chi, chi. He didn't even have time to scream. He had died too quickly. In the time it took for a spark to fly off a piece of flint, the 100-strong city guards, with the exception of Grand Commander Yu Qing, were all killed. And this was only because Lin Feng had held back. With Lin Feng's strength, dealing with them was as easy as flipping his hand. Too fast. The surrounding crowd had their mouths wide open, completely dumbfounded. The boy behind Lin Feng, little Jie, was also stunned. Although he knew that this senior was very strong, he didn't expect him to be this strong. His eyes emitting a blazing light, little Jie clenched his fists tightly, as if he was even more determined. It's over? The surrounding crowd stared at each other with their eyes wide open. Only then did they react. In just the blink of an eye, the battle was over. Did they see wrongly? What just happened? The scene of the battle flashed through everyone's mind. They weren't stupid, so at this moment, how could they not understand? The quick and simple battle just now, the seemingly understated attack, was full of strength and extraordinariness. Too strong. Even someone as strong as Grand Commander Yu Qing, a dignified advanced Dark Region Master, had his eyes wide open at this moment. He stopped in midair, as if someone had sealed his acupoints, not daring to move. What did he see? Advancing to Dark Region Master is ordinary. No, it's peak. Grand Commander Yu Qing's lips were pale as he looked at Lin Feng in shock. At this moment, he no longer dared to underestimate Lin Feng. Although it was just an instant, the explosion of aura had been deeply imprinted in his heart. It was a strength that far exceeded his own strength. Killing 100 city guards was simply asking for trouble. In front of such an expert, even 100 or 1,000 of him would be useless. The difference in strength was too great. Yu Qing, right? Lin Feng appeared in front of Yu Qing. His movement technique was fast and mysterious. Go back and tell the Yu clan that they'd better not provoke me. Otherwise, they will be the ones to regret it. Yu Qing looked at Lin Feng in shock. Why aren't you going? Lin Feng glanced at Yu Qing. This glance was like starlight shooting directly into his eyes. In the depths of his soul, Yu Qing woke up with a start. Cold sweat flowed down his body, and he didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Yes, yes. His voice was trembling. Yu Qing panicked and hurried back. He was already scared out of his wits by Lin Feng. The way the surrounding people looked at Lin Feng had completely changed. To be able to kill the city guards so easily and resolve the crisis, such a human expert, was extremely rare. Most importantly, he was still very young. For a moment, whispers could be heard everywhere. Everyone was guessing Lin Feng's identity. Lin Feng naturally didn't care about the crowd's comments. He turned around and walked in front of little Jie. Looking at him, he could see a lot from those clear and bright eyes, but they were filled with stubbornness. I like your stubbornness. Lin Feng smiled. If you have really made up your mind, then follow me. Then, Lin Feng walked past little Jie and walked forward. Jie stared blankly for a moment. Then he suddenly understood. He opened his eyes wide and revealed a joyful and excited expression. He hurriedly turned around, and his 3 steps turned into 2 to catch up and followed closely behind. Lin Feng didn't plan to take in a disciple. However, he still admired Jie very much, or rather, this could be considered a type of fate. Walking slowly on the bustling streets of Yuan City, it had already been a few hours since the city guards had retreated. Everything was calm and peaceful, and nothing had happened. The Yuan clan had suffered such a huge loss, yet they didn't make a move. Lin Feng knew that it wasn't that simple. No matter how he thought about it, the Yuan clan wouldn't let him off so easily. Even if they didn't fight, they would at least send experts over to negotiate. Could it be that there's news? This was the main reason why Lin Feng had entered Yuan City. He wanted to know the outcome of the battle that everyone was paying attention to. It was very possible. Lin Feng nodded. If the news came, then no matter who won or lost, it would be a top priority for the Yu human clan. Everything else would naturally be put aside. Just as he was thinking, a violent fluctuation came from afar. The ground seemed to be shaking, and the sky in the distance changed. Lin Feng let out a soft "oh" and turned to look at the horizon. His eyes immediately turned cold. To be continued. Translator, Transin Editor, Transin. Chapter 1644. The auras of the human race powerhouses were faintly discernible. The auras of the winged men could also be felt in the distant sky. Although the winged men hadn't launched a large-scale attack yet, they had begun to probe the border. Although the human race had issued many merit missions to reduce the winged men's strength, they were still the strongest race in the entire Tengchi continent. It was the same even in the North Continent, where they were the weakest. They can't wait anymore. Lin Feng couldn't help but smile. The doubts in his heart were immediately cleared. It was obvious that the news hadn't arrived yet, or rather, the outcome hadn't been decided yet. Otherwise, they wouldn't be probing each other like this. It was hard to figure out the human race's movements, but the winged men knew at a glance. If the human emperor lost, the winged men would definitely launch a large-scale attack without hesitation. If the human emperor won, the winged men would definitely retreat. If the human emperor was stronger than the mountain breaker wing emperor, no matter how bold the Quanglan wing monarchs and Kikiki wing monarchs were, they wouldn't dare to cause trouble for Yurin City. The current battle was more of a probe before the battle. The winged men were obviously very confident in the mountain breaker wing emperor. As for the human race, although they were passively accepting the battle, it was obvious that they didn't have much confidence in the human emperor. This was because the human emperor was challenging the famous mountain breaker wing emperor. It was many eras before the human emperor became famous. "Sir, where are we going now?" Behind him, little Jie asked timidly. After following Lin Feng, he no longer called him Senior Lin Feng. Instead, he changed the way he addressed him. "Find a place to stay," Lin Feng said. Looking around, Lin Feng said, "I just don't know which restaurant is the biggest, most luxurious, and most crowded in Yurin City." Little Jie exclaimed softly, "Sir, don't you know Zunyu restaurant?" Lin Feng smiled. He had almost forgotten that little Jie had stayed here for a long time. Putting everything else aside, he must be very familiar with Yurin City. "Do you know where it is?" Lin Feng asked. Little Jie nodded. "Then take me there," Lin Feng said. "Yes, sir," little Jie said respectfully. Lin Feng's guess was right. The human race was indeed very busy. The winged men were constantly harassing and probing, causing them to tense. They wanted to fight, and now they were only waiting for the final result of the battle. Tianz's. The man had a square face, thick eyebrows, and big eyes. His voice was vigorous, and his expression was focused. There was an aura of a superior between his eyebrows. The only peak expert of the human clan who had advanced to the master of the Black region, Yu Shui. Tian was Tian. Yu Tiansheng, who was called Tiansheng by Yu Shui, was one of the two Yu clan members who had advanced to become a master of the Dark region. The other was Emperor Yu's second disciple, Yu Jing. "It's like this, Shui." Yu Tiansheng took a step forward and told him the whole story. You human SS. "Okay, I know." Yu Shui nodded. "Are we going to ignore him?" Yu Tian asked. Yu Shui said, "Right now, the people of Yu Human City are in a panic. Although this kid's are insignificant, it's not appropriate to ignore him. To be able to easily defeat Yu Qing, his strength should be at the Black Domain Master level." Yu Tiansheng said, "They've just advanced, so they're arrogant. Newborn calves aren't afraid of tigers. We have information on all the human experts who have advanced to the Dark Domain Master Realm." Yu Shui nodded. He pondered for a while and said to Yu Tianyu, "Let Yu Cheng go." Yurin Emperor had 3 disciples. The eldest disciple was Yu Shui, the second disciple was Yu Jing, and the youngest disciple, Yu Cheng, was the weakest. She was at the threshold of the Black Domain Master level. "Okay, Shui," Yu Tianyu said. Compared to the others, Yu Cheng's position was neither high nor low. She didn't have much use in the Yu human race. At least, before she became an ordinary Black Domain Master, she wouldn't be able to take on any responsibilities. After all, she was Yurin Emperor's disciple. He couldn't let her take risks. Zuanyu Restaurant. Dazzling gold and jade, rich and luxurious, It was very imposing. Under little Jie's lead, the two quickly arrived. Along the way, countless people looked at them, but Lin Feng didn't care. From the beginning, he didn't hide his identity and whereabouts. What was the difference between seeing and not seeing? Guest, our Zuanyu restaurant. In front of the restaurant, a well-dressed boss with a big belly personally came out to greet them. He had a flattering smile on his face, but it was somewhat unnatural. He didn't know whether to receive or not to receive such a guest. Take this. Lin Feng took out 1,000 winged hearts. The well-dressed boss's mouth twitched. Just as he was hesitating, he saw Lin Feng's cold and indifferent eyes. His whole body trembled, and his big belly shrank. He straightened his back and said, "Honorable guest, this way, please." Lin Feng nodded and entered with little Jie. Behind them, the well-dressed boss's smile was uglier than crying, but he didn't dare to act rashly. The fiend in front of him even dared to kill the city guards and the Yu clan. If he was angered, who knew if he would kill him too? "Honorable guest, please go upstairs. The top floor of our restaurant has the best view and is the quietest." The well-dressed boss explained incessantly, his saliva flying. "Is there any news?" Lin Feng suddenly interrupted. "News?" The well-dressed boss was taken aback. "What news? What do you think?" Lin Feng glanced at him. The well-dressed boss suddenly understood and shook his head repeatedly. "Not yet." Lin Feng made no sound. His gaze swept over, and then he pointed to a seat by the window in the distance. "No need of trouble. We'll sit here." With that, he walked over with little Jie and sat down. The first floor of the restaurant was a place where dragons and snakes were mixed together. It was extremely noisy and lively. News usually spread the fastest here. Lin Feng naturally didn't come here to enjoy himself. He just wanted to find a place to stay and quietly wait for news. Okay. Honorable guest," the well-dressed boss said softly. How could he dare to offend Lin Feng? "Does the honorable guest have any other orders?" Lin Feng said, "No need, you can leave." The well-dressed boss waved his hand as if he had been granted amnesty and led the crowd to wait. Lin Feng had already sat down. Although his eyes were looking out the window, all the conversations on the first floor fell into his ears. The surrounding gazes were filled with respect, fear, excitement, and all kinds of emotions. Good news didn't leave the house, but bad news spread far and wide. The news of Lin Feng killing the city guards and confronting the Yu clan had already spread throughout Yuren City. Oh, another one. Lin Feng's heart moved. A tyrannical aura was approaching from the distance. It was a rarely seen black region master in Yuren City. Clearly, it had come for him. However, there was only one person. To be continued. Translator, Transin editor, Transin. Chapter 1645. It's Yu Cheng. Wow, Fairy Cheng. She's so beautiful in person. So beautiful. Strange. Why is Fairy Cheng here? Exclamations of surprise sounded out from Zuanyu restaurant. The woman who attracted everyone's attention had a pair of bright red phoenix eyes, thin and slender brows, and fine black hair that flowed down like a waterfall. She emanated a tranquil temperament. She was Yu Renhuang's disciple, Yu Cheng. Is she very famous? Lin Feng glanced at the beautiful woman in the distance. Her appearance had caused a huge commotion in the Zuanyu restaurant. Everyone crowded around her to take a look, but she didn't seem to be panicking, nor did she show any impatience. Her temperament was extraordinary. Sister Cheng is very kind. She often helps others like a fairy. Little Jie sneaked a glance at Lin Feng and said timidly. However, he knew that Lin Feng had a grudge against the Yu clan. Therefore, he avoided the topic. Oh, Lin Feng nodded. No wonder she was so popular. Those people liked and respected her from the bottom of their hearts. They weren't faking it. The crowd automatically opened up a path. Yu Cheng walked to Lin Feng's table with light steps. Her yellow dress fluttered. Her bright phoenix eyes glanced at little Jie in surprise. Then, she looked at Lin Feng and said softly, "Do you mind if I sit down?" "Sit." Lin Feng wasn't so ungentlemanly. He wouldn't hit someone who was smiling. "Thank you." Yu Cheng smiled, revealing 2 shallow dimples. She was gentle and elegant. She didn't put on airs at all. You're Lin Feng? Isn't there a portrait of me in the bounty? Lin Feng said. Yu Cheng smiled elegantly. But you don't look like an unforgivable bad guy. A bad guy doesn't have the word bad guy engraved on my forehead, Lin Feng said. Yu Cheng looked at Lin Feng with her deep eyes. Young Master Lin, is there some misunderstanding between you and the Yu clan? It's not a misunderstanding. I did kill Yu Ju, Lin Feng said. Yu Cheng frowned slightly. So, the reward is real? Lin Feng said indifferently. If others want to kill you, you can't just stand there and let them kill you. Isn't your Yu clan a little too overbearing? Yu Cheng's beautiful eyes flashed. She naturally understood the meaning of Lin Feng's words. The dead are gone. As for what happened at that time, each of us has his own version of the story. The dead tell no tales. Lin Feng smiled. I never wanted to change your minds. Yu Cheng didn't expect to get such an answer. She bit her lips and looked at Lin Feng with a complicated expression. If there's something else, Sir Lin, you can tell me. We don't have to fight. Lin Feng chuckled. You're too young. His words caused Yu Cheng's face to turn red. The words that she wanted to continue persuading were stuck in her throat. For a moment, she didn't know what to say. Gently biting her pale lips, Yu Cheng was not stupid. After thinking about it, she understood what Lin Feng meant. The reward had been issued, and now Lin Feng was openly provoking them. No matter who was right and who was wrong about Yu Ju, it wasn't something that could be explained in a few words. For their own reputation, the Yu clan had to capture Lin Feng and even kill him. It was related to the reputation of a clan. The Yu clan is overbearing and overbearing. They're evil. Little Jiao lowered his head. His small fists were clenched so tightly that blue veins popped out. His lowered head hid great hatred. Yu Cheng was startled and looked at little Jia in surprise. Lin Feng glanced at little Jia, but didn't say anything. Although he did not ask, he could guess most of what had happened to Shao Jia. There were all kinds of birds in a big forest. Moreover, the Yuren clan had a high status and power. They controlled such a huge Yuren city. Even if the tree trunk was still straight, many branches and leaves had died. It was very normal. Both sides fell into silence. The atmosphere was a little awkward. Yu Cheng pondered for a long time. Biting her pale lips, she said softly, You can leave. Huh? Lin Feng was a little surprised. Yu Cheng looked at Lin Feng. No matter who is right or wrong, young Master Lin, you have a grudge against the Yu clan. You can't win against us in Yuren City. Even if I don't do anything, there are many people in the Yu clan who are stronger than me. Second senior brother, Tian Sheng, eldest senior brother. Let's go. I'll take you out of Yuren City. This way, they won't be able to find you. Now is the best time. Eldest senior brother and the others are very busy. They can't spare time. Yu Cheng stood up. Her yellow dress fluttered. Her holy face was serious. Lin Feng looked at Yu Cheng. After a long time, he smiled. Thank you, Lin Feng said softly. Just as little Jia said, Yu Cheng was kind and a good person. A huge tree would inevitably have dead branches and leaves, but there were also leaves that were in good condition. Yu Cheng was one of them. Yu Cheng panicked. 2 strands of hair fell from her forehead. She stomped her feet and said, Let's go. If we don't leave now, it will be too late. Little Jia looked at Lin Feng hesitantly. Seeing that he didn't have any intention of leaving, he didn't say anything. Since he followed Lin Feng, he would naturally advance and retreat with him. At this moment, a commotion came from outside. The whole space shook even more violently. The space elements fluctuated intensely. Lin Feng's eyes flickered. He vaguely understood something. Space elements, space energy. This was what the winged men were best at. Once the fluctuation became intense, it was most likely because of the winged men. They were attacking. Perhaps they were probing more intensely, or not good. Not good. Outside the restaurant, panicked shouts could be heard. One after another, human silhouettes scurried away. Many peddlers hurriedly fled. The sky was dark and gloomy, as if a storm was coming. Yu Cheng had already stood up. Her cherry mouth was slightly open, and she looked confused. It seems like there's a result. Lin Feng looked into the distance. His eyes flickered. The situation was developing in a bad direction. Just by looking at the movements of the winged men, he knew that it wasn't good news. If Emperor Yu won the challenge, the winged men would have fled. But now, the movements of the winged men were getting more and more intense. It seemed like there was a final answer. They still lost. Lin Feng wasn't surprised. Who was the Broken Mountain Winged Emperor? He was a true, top-notch expert of the Dark region. His strength was unfathomable. None of the three emperors of the winged men were easy to deal with. Their strength had been at the peak of the Tongqi continent for countless eras. Although Emperor Yu was talented, could he really be stronger than the Broken Mountain Winged Emperor in such a short time? Lin Feng let out a sigh. Looking into the distance through the window, the aura of war was getting stronger. The ambitious winged men couldn't hold back anymore. Suddenly, a loud shout came from the Zun Huang restaurant. It was the pot-bellied boss in luxurious clothes. He stumbled down the stairs and shouted with a panicked expression, "There's a result! Yu Ren Huang, the result of your challenge to the Mountain Breaker Wing Emperor is out." To be continued. For the latest novel updates, please visit Chapter 1646. It was not just Lin Feng and Yu Cheng. At this moment, everyone on the first floor of Zun Yu restaurant fell silent. They held their breaths and looked at the luxuriously dressed boss at the top of the stairs. They were so focused that they did not even blink. The entire area was so quiet that even a pin drop could be heard. The luxuriously dressed boss took a deep breath and glanced around. He said word by word, "It's a draw." Everyone was stunned. What did that mean? The luxuriously dressed boss hurriedly added, "No one won this battle. It's a draw." However, it said that the mountain-breaking wing emperor and Yu Ren Huang suffered serious injuries. I don't know the details. Yu Ren Huang forced the mountain-breaking wing emperor to a draw? Compared to Yu Ren Huang's victory, this result was not shocking enough. However, it still caused quite a stir. After the luxuriously dressed boss announced the result, the entire area was in an uproar. It was extremely lively. "Good job. Yu Ren Huang is too powerful." "Hey, AI Nyang, are you stunned?" That's one of the three emperors of the Winged Men clan. Yu Ren Huang actually managed to tie with them. After this battle, let's see who dares to look down on us humans. Whistles and shouts rang out continuously. Everyone was extremely excited. Indeed, humans have been suppressed for too long. The entire Tongqi continent was almost the world of the winged men. Apart from Yuren City, humans in other places on the continent had to hide from the winged men clan. They lived in seclusion like mice hiding from cats. The winged men clan was too powerful. However, today, one of the three emperors of the winged men, the famous mountain-breaking wing emperor, had been forced to a draw by a mere human. This news was truly shocking. What an unexpected result. Lin Feng could not help but sigh and smile. Compared to Yu Ren Huang's defeat, he actually hoped that Yu Ren Huang would win. However, a draw was quite a good answer. As for the grudge between him and the Winged Men clan, it was secondary. This was because once Yu Ren Huang was defeated, the consequences would be unimaginable. No matter what, he was still a human. Seeing the humans of the Tongqi continent being tortured would make him feel somewhat unhappy. However, there was no need to worry now. Everything would go on as usual. With the powerful Yu Ren Huang's protection, humans would definitely become stronger. Great. Yu Qing couldn't help but smile. She clenched her fists, and her beautiful eyes flashed. Her yellow dress gently fluttered, and two shallow dimples appeared on her cheeks. Yu Human Emperor was the idol of every human being, especially every Yu Human clan member. Yuren City has been saved. Lin Feng had obtained the results and the crucial information. He no longer had any reluctance to leave this place. It was time to leave. Suddenly, "Young Master Lin, please leave." Yu Cheng, who was originally immersed in joy, came back to her senses and said hastily. She looked around and said, "Now that the news has just arrived, eldest senior brother and the others still need to be busy for a while. I will take you away as soon as possible. Otherwise, I'm afraid I won't be able to leave if I'm late." Lin Feng smiled. This time, it was indeed time for him to leave. There was no point in staying in Yuren City any longer. However, don't bother. We can leave on our own, Lin Feng said to Yu Cheng. He nodded to Xiao Jie and was about to get up. Suddenly, Lin Feng frowned and turned his head to look into the distance. Strange. Logically speaking, since he had received the news, the Winged Men clan should have known as well. Furthermore, they should have known earlier than him. However, just now, the spatial energy fluctuations had increased instead of decreasing. Furthermore, they were becoming more and more intense. What was going on? Did the Winged Men clan turn a blind eye to this news? Or perhaps this news isn't complete? A huge question mark appeared in Lin Feng's mind. There were many ways to reach a draw. Both sides had fought for dozens of rounds and stopped at a certain point. This was a draw. When both sides suffered, there was also a draw. Even if both sides were destroyed, there was still a draw. However, the results were completely different. More importantly, Yu Human Emperor's condition. If he was severely injured and couldn't recover in a short period of time, or if he needed to rest for hundreds or thousands of years, the situation would be complicated. Furthermore, this also involved the attitude of the Winged Men clan's 3 emperors. The mountain-breaking Winged Emperor had been forced to a draw. This wasn't a small matter. The 3 emperors represented the top strength of the Winged Men clan. The Winged Men clan was the ruler of the Tung Chi continent. How could they watch the humans rise? The implications were too great. In the blink of an eye, countless thoughts appeared in Lin Feng's mind. At this time, the spatial fluctuations in the distance didn't decrease at all. This confirmed his concerns and guesses. Why don't I send you guys away? It doesn't matter. Yu Cheng saw Lin Feng pause for a moment and thought that he couldn't bring himself to do it. Then, she continued. Lin Feng didn't look at Yu Cheng and didn't answer. His gaze was focused on the window as he pondered. Little Jia looked at Lin Feng and silently accompanied him. Suddenly, whoosh! Lin Feng's eyes suddenly lit up. His brows were tightly knitted together, and his expression became completely serious. He sensed that the spatial fluctuations suddenly intensified. At the same time, it was accompanied by strong fluctuations of other elements, as if it was resonating with them. In terms of strength, the Tyrant Dragon clone was stronger than the original body. However, in terms of perception, the original body had a strong soul and was in the heaven cultivation realm. It was far stronger than the Tyrant Dragon. As for Yu Cheng, she was on a completely different level. It still came. Lin Feng sighed. Although he didn't know what had happened, whether there was anything fishy about Emperor Yu's challenge, or if there were some unknown factors mixed in, there was one thing that he was certain of. A great battle was unavoidable. The large fluctuations in elemental and spatial energy meant that the battle between the Winged Men clan and the Yu Man clan had gradually expanded from a small-scale battle. Although they couldn't see it, their senses were enough to explain everything. In terms of strength, even if the Yu Man clan joined forces with the other human clans, they still wouldn't be able to contend against the Winged Men clan. Just in terms of numbers, the difference was like heaven and earth. All along, the reason why Yurin City had been able to remain safe and sound was not because of how strong Yurin City's defenses were, nor was it because of how united the humans were. It was because of a name, the name of Emperor Yu. But now, Emperor Yu's life and death were unknown, and his whereabouts were unknown. Without a leader, it was impossible for Yurin City to defend. Once the Winged Men clan made up their minds to launch a general attack, there would only be one result. Yurin City dead. Let's go quickly, or it'll be too late. Yu Cheng still didn't give up. Her beautiful face was full of love and kindness, but it really came from the bottom of her heart and wasn't artificial. Lin Feng turned his head and looked at Yu Cheng. He sighed and said, "Hurry up and take the others away." What? Yu Cheng was startled. Her beautiful little face was filled with confusion, making her look extremely adorable. Lin Feng sighed in his heart and said to Yu Cheng seriously, "The Winged Men race has started a war. They have officially invaded Yurin City and launched an attack. War has broken out." To be continued. For the latest novel updates, please visit Chapter 1647. War broke out? What do you mean? Yu Cheng opened her mouth slightly, looking confused. Lin Feng's eyes were deep as he pointed to the distance from the window. He didn't beat around the bush. The Winged Men race has launched an all-out attack, and the battle will soon affect the entire Yuan city. When the time comes, the people will be plunged into misery and chaos. Shock. Not only Yu Cheng, but the others were also stunned when they heard this. Then, they laughed out loud and revealed a contemptuous smile. Nonsense. That's right. How can there be a war? Emperor, you just completed a beautiful challenge and raised the morale of the human race. The winged men race wouldn't dare to attack even if they had 10,000 guts. We have Emperor Yu, a super expert whose strength is comparable to the 3 emperors of the winged men race. Who do they have? The Mad Mist Winged King and the cool, strange Winged King added together can't even compare to one of Emperor Yu's fingers. You're just trying to scare people. Ridiculous. These people didn't care if they offended Lin Feng or not. With Yu Cheng around, they weren't afraid at all. They kept mocking Lin Feng and drowned him in their saliva. Xiao Jie's face flushed red as he shouted, "Mr. Won't Lie." Yu Cheng pursed her lips and looked at Lin Feng in confusion. She shook her head gently. Emperor Yu just proved his strength. The winged men race must be wary of him. If they do so, it's completely irrational and they're courting death. Irrational? Lin Feng smiled and didn't explain further. Yu Cheng was too shallow. No wonder the Yu men race sent her to capture him instead of dealing with the winged men race. She was too young, like a flower in a greenhouse, pure and kind. This was her strength, but at the same time, it was also her weakness. Taking a step back, even if Emperor Yu wasn't injured, it didn't mean that the 3 emperors of the winged men race would let him go. Emperor Yu had only cultivated for a few years, and he already had such strength. If he was given more time, even the 3 emperors of the winged men race wouldn't be able to suppress him. Would the 3 emperors of the winged men race allow such a thing to happen? Besides, more than 90% of the winged men in the North Continent were sent by the 3 emperors of the Eastern, Southern, and Western continents. They used their blood and lives to fight for survival of the fittest. Even if the winged ones, especially the winged monarch, didn't submit to the 3 winged monarchs, they would still be in contact with them and obey. The attack launched by the Winged Men clan was most likely incited by the 3 winged rulers. As the master of the Tong Chi continent, the winged men would never allow the humans to rise. No matter how despicable they were, the winner takes all. It was that simple. For the time being, the winged men of the River Yao clan could not do anything about it. But the humans, the Winged Men clan was fully capable of severely injuring or even destroying them. In the surroundings, the sounds of mockery continued. Yu Cheng still wanted to persuade him, but all of a sudden, her beautiful body trembled. Her beautiful eyes looked into the distance in shock as she blurted out, "Impossible." Yu Cheng's yellow dress fluttered in the wind. She staggered and took 2 steps back. What did she sense? With a pale face, Yu Cheng looked into the distance in shock. Then, she glanced at the calm Lin Feng, her full chest heaving up and down. At this moment, her heart was in turmoil, and it was difficult for her to calm down. The fluctuations of elemental energy in the air could not be deceived. Just for a moment, boom, a huge explosion resounded, and the earth shook continuously. Zunyu Restaurant, which was located in the center, shook violently. The tables and chairs made cracking sounds, the floor cracked, and even part of the ceiling fell. The shaking was so intense that it was as if doomsday had arrived. My restaurant. The well-dressed boss at the staircase wanted to cry, but had no tears. He was thrown off his feet by the strong vibration and fell at the staircase. The figures beside him were the customers of the restaurant. They happened to be mocking Lin Feng. Now, their faces were pale, and they wished they had 2 more legs. What happened? The situation was very clear. A war had broken out. Although it was only 1 vibration, it was enough to tell the truth. People fled in a panic. Those who had mocked Lin Feng before had already been slapped in the face. They did not even dare to look at Lin Feng and ran faster than anyone else. In the blink of an eye, only Lin Feng, Yu Cheng, and the dispirited, well-dressed boss were left in the huge restaurant. Why did it turn out like this? Yu Cheng was still in disbelief. The falling ceiling was directly bounced off by her protective chi. With Yu Cheng's strength, no matter how strong the vibration was, It could not hurt her at all. There is no reason why, Lin Feng said indifferently and looked at Yu Cheng. Even if this war did not break out today, it would have happened one day. It was just that Yu Ren Huang brought it forward. The establishment of Yuren City did give the humans confidence and encouragement, but actually, wasn't this done with the tacit consent of the Winged Men clan? If the Winged Men clan wanted to destroy it, Yuren City would not have existed for so long. This is actually the wolf-raising plan. On one hand, the growth of the humans could give the Winged Men clan stronger competition and cultivate their vigilance in times of peace. On the other hand, the Winged Men clan hoped that the smart humans could bring them something different. But now, Yu Ren Huang has touched the bottom line of the Winged Men clan. Lin Feng's expression was calm. He knew, and so did Yu Ren Huang. But he still did it. As for why he did not know, now was not the time to guess. The important thing was that the war had already broken out. What was coming next would be a huge disaster for the Yuren clan and Yuren City. Defeat, without a doubt. What the Yuren clan could do was to lose with dignity, to lose while preserving their strength, to lose while avoiding being slaughtered. Thank you. Yu Cheng looked deeply at Lin Feng. She was not stupid, but no one had told her this before. Although she did not understand everything now, she understood a lot. I have to go back and fight. You leave quickly. Take care. Then, Yu Cheng did not stop for a moment. She hurried to the battlefield to help her clan. The Yuren clan needed her now. Lin Feng looked at Jia, who lowered his head slightly with a complicated expression. What's wrong? Lin Feng asked. Jia raised his head and said softly, Mister, I don't want the Yuren clan to win, but I also hope that they can win. Lin Feng smiled. He gently patted Jia's head and said, Because you are a human. Jia seemed to understand. He looked at Lin Feng and savored his words. After a long time, he said, Then what should we do now? Mister, are we leaving? Lin Feng asked, Do you want to leave? Jia shook his head. Sui Er lowered his head again. His eyes were a little blurred and dark. One thing is one thing. Don't give yourself such a big burden. Lin Feng patted Jia and comforted him. You have to distinguish between good and evil, but don't let hatred affect your heart. Jia raised his head. His dark eyes flickered. Let's go, Lin Feng said. Where to, mister? What do you think? Jia nodded heavily. I understand, mister. To be continued. Translator, Transin Editor. Transin. Chapter 1648. At this moment, Yuren City was bustling with activity. The human army led by the Yuren race had officially declared war on the winged race. Just as Lin Feng had sensed, the winged race's attacks had turned from probing to small-scale attacks. Although this was only a small portion of the winged race, and they hadn't seen the mad mist-winged monarch and the cool strange-winged monarch, it was a definite sign. The winged race was going to attack Yuren City, or they were going to destroy Yuren City and slaughter the humans. They really came. The leader of the Yuren race was Emperor Yu's eldest disciple, Yu Shui. He had a square face, thick eyebrows, and big eyes. His appearance was ordinary, but his actions were steady and impeccable. Under his preparations, he had gathered a large number of human experts to resist the winged race's invasion. Without the lips, the teeth would feel cold. Naturally, the human races wouldn't be stingy with their strength. Even the lightning race, which had always been at odds with the Yuren race, had sent a large number of experts to help, including a peak expert who had advanced to the Master of Black Region. Lei Gun, in the entire northern continent, there were only 5 such top-notch human powerhouses. There was only one of them, and that was Yu Shui. Didn't we already expect this? Emperor Yu is so unwise, huh? Lei Gun's voice was cold. Clearly, he was very dissatisfied with Emperor Yu's actions. As one of the peak experts of the lightning race, he naturally disdained Emperor Yu. Master must have his reasons for doing this, Yu Shui said. What reasons? Lei Gun glanced at him and sneered. Isn't he doing things his own way? If he hadn't exposed his strength, why would the 3 winged monarchs join hands to detain him and destroy the human race? As the strongest expert of the human race, he doesn't even know how to weigh the pros and cons. He only knows how to show off. Yu Shui said, Let's talk about right and wrong in the future. Right now, it's urgent. Brother Lay Gun, I wonder if you can inform your patriarch to send more experts to help? Isn't it enough that I'm here? Lay Gun said indifferently. Yushui still wanted to say something, but Lay Gun said coldly, there's no need to say anything more. The patriarch sent me here to show his attitude. If the Urin race can defend Urin City, the lightning race, we will do our best. However, there's no need to make unnecessary sacrifices. As the strongest human race, the Nightmare Thunder Tribe's headquarters was not in Urin City. So even if Urin City was destroyed, the Nightmare Thunder Tribe would not suffer too great of a loss. Yushui sighed. In terms of both emotion and reason, the Nightmare Thunder humans had already done everything they could. At this moment, two figures dashed over from afar. It was a man and a woman. They were Yushui's junior brother, Yu Jing, and junior sister, Yu Cheng. Both of them were Emperor Yu's disciples, and they had extraordinary statuses in the Yu clan. Eldest senior brother, Yu Jing and Yu Cheng cupped their hands. Yushui glanced at Yu Jing and frowned. Junior brother, why are you back? Yu Jing smiled and said, don't worry, eldest senior brother. I've already done what you asked me to do. I've already arranged for all the potential talents in the clan to retreat. There won't be any problems. However, I'm a grown man. I can't just run away without fighting. Yushui nodded helplessly. He knew his personality. Urin City survival was at stake. This would never run away. Junior sister, you're back too. Is it done? Yushui asked. Oh. Yu Cheng replied vaguely. Yu Jing couldn't help but look at her with surprise. However, Yushui didn't mind. He nodded and said, well done. All his attention was on the war with the winged race. Everything else was behind him. He didn't have time to think about it. Moreover, in Yushui's mind, it was certain that his was done. Since hers is, Yu Cheng didn't ask. She asked, how's the situation now? Is there anything I can do to help? Yushui's eyes narrowed. He said seriously, although the winged race hasn't launched a large-scale attack yet, I'm afraid it's not going to end well. Perhaps the winged king hasn't arrived yet, so the winged race's attack has slowed down. Then can we win? Yu Cheng bit her pale lips and asked worriedly. Yushui sighed. He looked at the battle in the distance. He wanted to say something, but stopped himself. Do your best and fight to the end. Yu Jing patted Yu Cheng's shoulder. He wasn't afraid at all. Lay Gun said coldly, if Shui and I work together, we might be able to stop the Winged King. However, if the Winged King joins the battle, we won't have any hope. The Winged King is alone. Even if the 5 of us join forces, we won't be able to defeat him. Moreover, the winged race is much stronger than us humans in every aspect. Even if all the human experts gather, they won't be able to outnumber the winged race, let alone us humans. Ha! Lay Gun sneered and stopped talking. Even so, he had said all he could. There was complete silence. Don't think too much. We'll find a way when we get there. Let's fight first. Yu Jing's eyes were burning. He clenched his fist and said, killing one is enough. Killing 2 is worth it. Let's go, junior sister. Yu Cheng nodded. The 2 of them rushed to the battlefield. Yu Shui and Lay Gun looked at the 2 of them and sighed in their hearts. It was good to be young. Newborn calves weren't afraid of tigers. However, as experienced as they were, they knew that this was an unwinnable battle. Urin City was in a mess. All the shops were empty. Human experts could be seen fleeing on the streets. Some of them shut their doors and windows tightly and didn't dare to go out. They were afraid of encountering an unexpected disaster. Many human experts chose to escape. However, they were surrounded by winged race experts. It wasn't that easy to escape. On the streets, the 2 humans, one big and one small, seemed out of place. Even though there was a storm around them, the 2 of them didn't move at all. Mister, where are we going now? Little Jia asked. To join the fun, Lin Feng said. Little Jia raised his head slightly and looked confused. What? Lin Feng looked ahead. The winged race is serious this time. How can we miss such a rare battle? Little Jia nodded. He lowered his head and pondered for a moment. Then he asked, Mister, are you going to help them? Lin Feng said, not really. I also want to meet the top experts of the winged race. Then, after pausing for a moment, Lin Feng's eyes flashed. He looked at the mournful atmosphere in Urin City and felt ripples in his heart. Although I don't like to see injustice, I can't just stand by and do nothing. So, when I want to do something, I will do it. Lin Feng smiled faintly and strode forward. Little Jiao lowered his head and thought carefully about Lin Feng's words. He nodded as if he understood and followed closely behind. Chapter 1649. The sky above Urin City was dark. Just like the feelings of every human expert, the strength of the winged men was deeply ingrained in their hearts. Normally, they would not even have time to hide, let alone fight to the death with the winged men. It was fine to fight to the death, but the lack of results caused the human experts' morale to drop. Every time they killed a winged man, more winged men would appear. They did not know how many winged men they would have to fight. The only thing they knew was that the number of winged men in the northern continent was more than 10 times that of the humans. This was only the northern continent, which was the smallest of the 4 continents and had the least number of winged men. However, they had no choice but to fight to the death. Only by fighting to the death would they have a chance of survival. Once Urin City was breached, the humans in Urin City would suffer heavy casualties. More importantly, the humans' last line of defense would collapse. At that time, the humans would truly be eliminated from the Tongqi continent. Want to rise again? Unless another Yuren Huang appeared among the humans. However, would the winged men, who had learned from their mistakes, allow Yuren Huang to grow? The answer was obviously no. Kill. If you're a man, charge with me. Fight to the death with these beasts. The longer we hold them off, the more humans in Urin City can escape. Hold on. The winged men are not invincible. Since Yuren Huang dared to challenge the Broken Mountain Winged Emperor, he's telling us that we can't compromise anymore. Humans have reached a point of life and death. If we don't succeed, we'll die for a righteous cause. That's right. Even if we die, we'll die with a bang and a worthy death. Under the leadership of the Yurin clan, the human experts launched wave after wave of attacks, firmly guarding the gates of Urin City. Blood dyed the city walls red, and corpses were strewn everywhere. There were both humans and winged men. In terms of casualties, the winged men had more, but the number of winged men was worlds apart from the number of humans. To the winged men, a few deaths were nothing. They had been sent to the northern continent for a life and death training. Survival of the fittest. Every time a group of winged men died, more winged men would be sent over. However, if 1 human died, then 1 human died. If 10 humans died, then 10 humans died. However, there was no time to consider this. The winged men's army was already at the city gates. If they did not resist, they would be killed. The longer they could hold on, the more humans in Urin City would be able to leave. Furthermore, did they have a choice? Second brother, can we join the battle now? Yu Chung looked at the human cultivators who were bleeding and dying, and her pretty face was a little ugly. Her soft heart was constantly touched, and she couldn't wait to join the battle. Although she wasn't strong, she could still save as many as she could. No. Although Yu Jing's personality was straightforward, he was not reckless. Yu Jing stretched out his right hand and stopped Yu Chung. He looked ahead and said, "First of all, you have to understand one thing. Junior sister, we are not trying to defeat the Winged Clan. The reason why we are fighting is because we have no way out, and they hope to prolong the war so that the other humans can leave and preserve their strength." Yu Cheng's beautiful eyes twinkled. She gritted her teeth and nodded. Yu Jing said, "Therefore, we only need to maintain the same level of strength as the winged men and not lose. We must not increase the range of our attacks. Otherwise, the winged men will fight back more fiercely. You're strong, I'm strong, and he's strong. Very soon, this small probing will turn into an intense battle. At that time, the consequences are unpredictable." Yu Chung wasn't stupid. She quickly understood. Simply put, they wanted to give the winged men an illusion that they were evenly matched. They wanted to make the winged men feel that they were suppressing the humans and that they could win soon. However, they were still a little short. The winged men increased their troops, and the humans also increased the number of powerful cultivators to maintain the balance. By the way, junior sister, the thing that eldest senior brother asked you to do, you didn't do it? Yu Jing suddenly asked. Yu Cheng was slightly surprised. She pursed her lips and shook her head. He's different from what I imagined. What's different? Yu Jing asked curiously. Yu Cheng said, he gives me the feeling that he's calm and open-minded. He's also very wise and unpredictable. So you let him go? Yu Jing was dumbfounded. Yu Cheng nodded. He's completely different from the other wanted criminals. According to him, it was Yu Ju who led the team to attack first. He was just defending himself. You believe him? Yu Jing asked. Yu Cheng said, I don't know if I should believe him, but my intuition tells me he's not lying. Yu Jing laughed heartily. What I did was wrong, senior brother. Yu Cheng was like a child who did something wrong. She rubbed her fingers anxiously. There's no right or wrong in this world. Yu Jing's eyes were bright. The Yu clan is not a saint. Not everyone is like you, junior sister. So there's no need to be so serious about some things. If you think it's right, then it's right. If you think it's wrong, then it's wrong. Besides, Yu Jing heaved a sigh and looked into the distance. Whether it's right or not, it's actually not that important now. We can't even protect ourselves. Yu Jing's brows were tightly knitted together. The more he frowned, the more serious his expression became. The winged men have increased their attacks. At this moment, Lin Feng had brought little Jie to the battlefield. The pungent smell of blood and the piles of broken branches and corpses would make any warrior who had never been on the battlefield tremble in fear. They might even vomit. However, Lin Feng glanced at little Jie from the corner of his eyes. Little Jie was not in such a state. His face was pale, and his thin limbs were trembling slightly. It was obvious that he was trying hard to endure. However, he overcame it. This child must have gone through a lot when he was young. Lin Feng saw this. He had accepted little Jie because he was very similar to him. On the other hand, he was very satisfied with little Jie's personality. Many things could be changed, but not one's personality. Perhaps little Jie's aptitude was ordinary. This was something that he had noticed early on. Otherwise, little Jie would not have been rejected everywhere he went. In the end, he found himself a wanted criminal. However, little Jie's willpower was very strong. He did not compromise in the face of danger and death. Such a warrior was very difficult to defeat. Little Jie, Lin Feng stopped in his tracks. Yes, mister. Do you see the killing in front? Lin Feng asked. Yes, mister. Good. Lin Feng glanced at little Jie and said indifferently, Go and experience what war is and what killing is. Little Jie was obviously stunned. However, he raised his head stubbornly and said, Yes, mister. Almost without hesitation, his thin body disappeared into the sea of people. His small hand holding the dagger was trembling. However, he did not run away timidly. Instead, he faced it bravely, even if he knew it was a dead end. He has another good point. Lin Feng was very satisfied. He doesn't ask if it's right or wrong. He listens to everything. Compared to a child with strong self-awareness, such a child would be more likely to become a talent when taught by someone. To be continued. To read a novel without mistakes, please visit Chapter 1650. Lin Feng wouldn't send little Jie to his death. He let him fight because he wanted to see his personality and attitude. On the other hand, he wanted to know more about little Jie's potential and compatibility. Although he had accepted little Jie as his disciple, he still needed to observe him carefully. He would only accept someone who was truly suitable. To him, a disciple's potential was important. However, character and personality were more important. Bloody mist filled the sky and deafening roars filled the battlefield. Those who entered the battlefield couldn't see the sky anymore. They were all affected by the murderous aura. They kept fighting and fighting. In the battle formation, every human and winged person was crazy. Only Lin Feng was unique. He weaved in and out of the battle formation. His movements were light and effortless. With a raise of his hand, the winged people were killed one by one. The reason why he killed them was because they were in his way. Little Jie was unremarkable among the human experts. His small body didn't have much strength. In terms of strength, he was at the bottom. However, Lin Feng already knew this. What he wanted to see was other things about little Jie. For example, fearlessness, courage in the face of death, performance on the battlefield, etc. Ah, ah, little Jia kept roaring. His eyes were bloodshot. He attacked with his dagger like a madman. Although he was weak, little Jia's fighting spirit was very high. His roaring wasn't to hide his fear. It was to strengthen his fighting spirit and aura. If he wasn't strong enough, his fighting spirit could make up for it. Swoosh! Lin Feng took out a battle sword and threw it at little Jia. In such a battle, it wasn't convenient to use a dagger. Plus, he wanted to see how little Jia would do with the sword. After getting the battle sword, little Jia's fighting strength didn't increase. However, his aura seemed to have increased. After all, daggers were more suited for sneak attacks rather than open and close combat. His control of the sword is quite good. Plus, his personality is very suitable for practicing the sword. Lin Feng saw this and had a good impression of little Jia. However, it wasn't that high either. Children with such aptitude were plentiful in Yuren City. He might be outstanding in the Milky Way. However, in this place, he was at most an upper-middle talent. Oh, Lin Feng suddenly noticed something different. His saber moves, yes. Lin Feng nodded thoughtfully and smiled. Following behind little Jia, Lin Feng carefully observed. He could see that little Jia was still unfamiliar with the use of the sword, but he seemed to be no stranger to battle. His aptitude was ordinary, but his saber talent was above average. However, her personality was very similar to his. She had a strong will and wasn't afraid of failure or fighting. In addition, this child's learning ability is very strong. Lin Feng realized that little Jia was different from the others. He was able to imitate his opponent's saber skills from the beginning to the end. He was not trying to imitate someone else's saber skills, but he was truly copying them. One move after another, the discontinuous saber moves gradually reverted to a set of saber techniques in his hands. Moreover, the saber techniques unleashed their original power in the continuous battle. This talent was enough to make up for his lack of aptitude. Very good. Lin Feng was very satisfied. Although little Jia was not a genius with a special superpower, there were still some extraordinary things in his ordinary talent. Plus, with his personality and attitude, under his guidance, he would not be any worse than those geniuses. The war was getting more and more intense. The winged men, who seemed to be impatient, kept increasing their troops. 6 winged men pounced forward, and the spatial elemental fluctuations became more intense. The entire Yuren city fell into a silent panic. They were retreating. The winged men's attacks were getting stronger and stronger. The Yuren race had also started to send out their elites. From ordinary Black Region Masters to advanced Black Region Masters, they appeared one after another to maintain the situation and fight equally with the winged men. All along, just as Yu Jing said, the humans had been preserving their strength. Now that they had used all their strength, they were not at a disadvantage. The war was getting more and more intense, and the casualties were increasing. Fortunately, the humans were paying enough attention to this war. Therefore, they still had some strength left. However, it was unknown how long they could last. To the humans, they still had some strength left. However, to the winged men, this was just the beginning. Boom! Bang! Yu Jing had already joined the battle. Although he was blocking Yu Cheng, he wanted to fight more than Yu Cheng. In the Yuren race, whenever there was a battle, he would be the main fighter and be the first to rush out. This time was no exception. Whoosh! Yu Jing wielded a huge saber with 3 curved blades. There were barbs on the curved blades, and the barbs were smeared with poison. His attacks were not only powerful, but his saber would also cause bleeding damage to his enemies. Furthermore, it would continuously damage the wounds, making it difficult for them to heal. Even an immortal body was useless. With his participation, the humans' morale increased dramatically. The Yuren race's vanguard team, led by him, was like a hot knife through butter. They were not afraid of the winged men at all. One by one, the winged men were cut down, and a gap was torn open in the winged men's army. On the battlefield, Yujing City was undoubtedly a bright and beautiful sight. Although he only had the strength of an advanced Black Region Master, he was still the disciple of Emperor Yu. At his peak, his combat strength was close to the peak. In the Yuren race, his strength was second only to eldest senior brother Yushui. Brother Jing is so powerful. Everyone, follow Brother Jing and charge. Let's fight with these bastards. We humans are not easy to bully. Yu Jing had become the stabilizing force of the humans. His aura was majestic. At this moment, he was completely immersed in battle. His eyes were red, and he could not care about anything else. Yu Cheng, who had entered the enemy's ranks with him, had long been forgotten. In fact, it was extremely difficult to pay attention to even one person in such a chaotic battle. Even if one could do it, their strength would be greatly reduced. Pong, boom, rumble. Yu Cheng was currently facing attacks from all directions. Her originally waterfall-like hair was now extremely messy. Yu Cheng herself was in a fluster, unable to cope with the attacks. Her delicate and lovely body was stained with blood, and her pink face had a touch of paleness. This was the first time she had experienced such a battle. Her talent was naturally outstanding. Otherwise, Emperor Yu would not have taken her in as a disciple. However, because Yu Cheng was young and not strong enough, she rarely participated in real battles. This was different from Yu Jing. Her first battle was already in such a terrifying situation. Although Yu Cheng was smart, she was not only injured, but also faced an extremely difficult situation. She could no longer escape. The winged men naturally did not have any protective feelings for the fair sex. They constantly surrounded Yu Cheng. Yu Cheng, who only had the strength of an advanced Black Region master, could not even display 30% of her strength. She was naturally not a match for the winged men. If not for the fact that she had a peak Chaos Cave mystic treasure, she would have died long ago. But now, boom, Yu Cheng, who had been attacked consecutively, finally revealed an opening. One of the winged man's sneak attacks succeeded, and she let out a resounding howl. More than 10 winged men rushed towards the falling Yu Cheng, revealing their loftiness. No, Yu Cheng's pretty face paled as she completely lost the ability to resist. To be continued. For the latest novel updates, please visit Chapter 1651. Not good. Oh no. Sister Yu Cheng. The other Yu clan experts widened their eyes in fear. The battle on the battlefield was constantly changing, and no one could predict what would happen. They were not in a good situation, let alone saving Yu Cheng. Besides, whether they could save her or not was still a problem. They wanted to kill the enemy, but they were powerless. Yu Cheng was disheartened. She did not underestimate war, nor did she naively think that she was powerful. However, she had never thought that her strength was so weak. She had only lasted for a short while on the battlefield before being defeated. Right now, other than being conscious, she had nothing else. Yu Cheng knew clearly that she would be trampled by the winged men very soon, and not even her bones would be left. There were many people like her. The battlefield was cruel and merciless. The winged men would not show mercy to humans, and humans would do the same to them. This was a war between races. Right now, it was a life-and-death struggle. The terrifying aura of the winged men came from the tip of her nose. Just as Yu Cheng closed her eyes in despair, a bright blade light suddenly illuminated her eyes that were about to close, as if she had received light. Chi! The shocking force disappeared in the blink of an eye. Instantly, Yu Cheng's body became light, and a man's aura rushed into her nose. It was familiar, very familiar. Her exposed arm touched the man's skin, and it felt like an electric shock. Yu Cheng was like a delicate sheep. Her arm trembled slightly, and she retracted it. How can you resign yourself to fate in a battle? The familiar voice fell in her ears. Yu Cheng was stunned. Her eyes widened, and she raised her head slightly. She just happened to see a calm and expressionless face with a pair of eyes that were like bright stars in the sky. It's you. Yu Cheng was shocked. Wasn't the young man in front of her the wanted criminal she had just released? Why was he here? Why did he save her? On the battlefield, no matter what, don't give up hope. Lin Feng carried Yu Cheng, but his movements were not hindered at all. He weaved through the army of winged men like a butterfly dancing among flowers, mysterious and magical. Yu Cheng stared blankly at her surroundings. The originally chaotic and bloody battlefield was now so quiet and peaceful. Open your mouth. Ah, gulp. Yu Cheng swallowed a fruit of heaven and earth. In an instant, a warm current flowed from her chest and spread to her limbs and 5 meridians. Her soul consciousness became clear. In the blink of an eye, her injuries had recovered to 70%. Thank you. Yu Cheng lowered her head, not daring to look at Lin Feng. Even she didn't know why. You're welcome, Lin Feng said with a faint smile. You let me go, and I'll return your life. We're even. All right, be careful. If you're not strong enough, don't go deep into enemy territory. Lin Feng's voice resounded in Yu Cheng's ears. In an instant, Yu Cheng felt a weight on her feet. She was already on top of the city wall. That man's presence had already disappeared. She could still feel his warmth on her body, but she didn't know where he was. Although it was only for a short moment, Yu Cheng's heart was in turmoil. She suddenly realized that she had let him go earlier because she had been overthinking things. With her strength, it was impossible for her to catch Lin Feng. He could walk through thousands of soldiers as if he was walking on flat ground, and easily kill the winged ones who were about the same strength as her. This kind of battle prowess was breathtaking. He's so powerful. Yu Cheng looked in the direction where Lin Feng left and bit her lips. He's about the same age as me. How can he be so powerful? I'm afraid his strength is comparable to second senior brothers. Her heart was moved, and it was extremely complicated. Saving Yu Cheng was as easy as lifting a finger. When Yu Cheng entered the battlefield, Lin Feng had already sensed and noticed her. He also clearly knew what would happen to this pure and kind-hearted girl. With one look, he could tell that she had no experience. It would be strange if nothing happened to her on the battlefield. Therefore, he had always been paying attention to her. It wasn't that difficult to control 2 people in a battle of this level. I hope I can make it in time. Lin Feng once again threw himself into the battlefield. To Xiao Jie, this was not only a training ground, but also a space for improvement. As long as he could survive this war, Xiao Jie would definitely be able to reap great benefits and grow. And what he had to do was to protect him when he couldn't handle it anymore. In addition, the 2 winged monarchs haven't appeared. Lin Feng had actually been looking for the whereabouts of the mad mist winged monarch and the cool strange winged monarch. Before leaving the northern continent, he wanted to confirm his current strength and what level he was at in the Tengqi continent. The 2 winged monarchs came from the other 3 continents and were an excellent touchstone. Since the winged race didn't hide and attack Yuan City, they must have obtained the approval of one of the 2 winged monarchs, or even both of them. They hadn't appeared yet either because the time wasn't right, or because there wasn't an expert among the humans who could force them to appear. It was only a matter of time before they arrived. Continue to wait. Lin Feng wasn't in a hurry and took this opportunity to train Xiao Jie. His gaze swept across the battlefield, and a light flashed in his eyes. The corner of his mouth raised into a slight smile. Let me do my best. With a raise of his hand, a terrifying saber light attacked at an astonishing speed. Not far away, a 6-winged man who had advanced to the level of a black domain master was killing in all directions. He howled in excitement and killed the humans around him. Suddenly, Pucci. His eyes were as wide as lanterns, and his claws were still trying to kill. However, his head had already been separated from his body. Blood spurted out wildly. The 6-winged winged man expert trembled violently and fell unwillingly to the ground. On the other side, a 6-winged man who had also advanced to the level of a black domain master had just madly gnawed on the body of a human expert when his head was instantly cut in half. On the other side, Lin Feng had entered assassination mode. He specifically targeted the strongest winged race members and hid in the battlefield. His movements were ghostly. It seemed that he was surrounded by many winged race experts, but in reality, he was using them to conceal himself. Not long after, the winged race's wild and wanton attacks slowed down. This was because they suddenly discovered that although they still had a large number of people, the number of experts who had advanced to the level of a black domain master was decreasing. On the contrary, the losses of the humans weren't great. The scales of the war gradually tilted. The battle between the winged race and the humans was even more tragic. Lin Feng didn't attract any attention, and the winged race didn't suspect anything. After all, the battlefield was constantly changing, and casualties were inevitable. Counterattack. This was the first time the human army had seen a glimmer of hope, and they were extremely excited. Their fighting spirit and morale were even higher. Although their numbers were much inferior, they were like sharp spears that pierced through the enemy formation. Kill. Haha. There's nothing special about the Wing clan. Drive them back to their homes. The human experts roared madly. On the other hand, the morale of the Winged Men clan was low, and they were forced to retreat. It should be soon. Lin Feng followed behind the team and observed the overall situation. To be continued. For the latest novel updates, please visit Chapter 1652. Actually, with the strength of the Winged Men, they could have attacked indiscriminately. They could have invaded Urain City with their numbers and forced the humans to fight on their own. Then, they could have split up and attacked. This battle would have been in the bag. However, the Winged Men did not do that. Instead, they faced the human army head-on. Perhaps it was because they had absolute confidence in their own strength. Or perhaps it was because the Winged Men themselves could not think of such a method. Or perhaps they were too lazy to think of such a method. The river demons had the protection of the river, so they could not deal with them. What did the humans have? If they could not even take down Urain City, how could they be worthy of being called the masters of this continent? Boom! The human experts were not happy for long before the Winged Men erupted with their full strength. The Winged Men army was many times larger than before. Among them, there were several peak experts who had advanced to the Black Domain Master Realm. There was no need for the two winged monarchs to take action. The Winged Men army was already full of confidence. In an instant, the flames that had just been ignited by the humans were extinguished. Absolute suppression in numbers. As for the top experts, they would be completely crushed. Even though the human army's morale was high, when the difference in strength was too great, everything was lost. Lin Feng frowned slightly. He had two choices now. He could either continue to launch sneak attacks or directly attack. But no matter which choice he chose, it would be difficult to turn the situation around. Sneak attacks? The Winged Men were not fools. Just now, the experts of the army had been killed one after another. That was why the Winged Men army had been silent for a long time. They must be analyzing the reason behind this. Perhaps they had already set up a trap and were waiting for him to jump into it. Moreover, the efficiency of a sneak attack was not high, and the advantage of the Wing clan was too great. The human army was already retreating step by step. If he wanted to save Urain City, he would have to expose his strength and directly face the experts of the Wing clan. Only then would he have any hope of winning. However, this method was very risky, because the Urain clan's attitude was unknown, and the human army's attitude was unknown. If they could not cooperate closely, he would be sacrificed to save the king and fall into a great predicament. Even the stronger T-Rex clone might not be able to protect himself against the Winged Men army's encirclement and the two wing monarchs. Needless to say, the main body of the Black Domain Master had not reached the peak. With his relationship with the Urain clan, he had to be careful. Oh, Lin Feng hesitated. Seeing that the human army was being forced back into Urain City, the winged race army attacked without restraint, howling and howling without restraint. Blood splattered all over the city walls. Watching the human powerhouses grit their teeth and fight to the death, Lin Feng's heart stirred. They were all fighting for their clansmen. It was true that he had a grudge with the Yu-Human clan, but not everyone in the Yu-Human clan was bad. For example, Yu-Chun was one of them. Not to mention that the Urain clan was only one in 10,000 amongst the human race. Even though they were the masters of Urain City truly belonged to every single human race, and there were tens of thousands of human clans. There was no enmity between them and him. They were all humans who had blood flowing through their veins like him. Save him. Lin Feng made the decision. There were countless humans in Urain City, and some of them were even younger than little Jia, and some of them were just born. He couldn't just stand by and watch them die. He did not want to see Urain City being trampled by the winged men clan. Humans are emotional creatures. However, if he were to appear and kill the winged men clan's top experts, he would attract too much hatred. Moreover, the other party would definitely change their target and focus their attacks on him. It was extremely dangerous. There was no need for him to do such a thing. Go, Wu Jin. Lin Feng released Wu Jin. Wu Jin was a top-tier Black Region Master, but his strength had been sealed by more than 99%. He could only display the strength of an advanced Black Region Master. Even so, he was already strong enough. At the same time, Wu Jin had also advanced to the peak of the Black Domain Master Realm. It wouldn't be a problem for him to fight 1 against 5. Unless the 2 winged monarchs personally come, it won't be easy to kill Wu Jin. Lin Feng already had a plan. On one hand, he would release Xiongdi to infiltrate the winged race army, and on the other hand, he would release Wu Jin to attract the attention of the winged race. As for himself, he would continue his sneak attack. This was the true maximization of efficiency. Behind the winged race army, Lin Feng didn't guess wrongly. The mad Mistwing monarch had indeed come. This time, he had come to trample Yuan City. He didn't make a move, but he was still somewhat afraid. After all, this was Emperor Yu's city. The mad Mistwing monarch's memory of Emperor Yu was still fresh. He clearly knew that Emperor Yu's strength was far above his own. Why haven't we taken it down yet? The mad Mistwing monarch revealed a displeased expression. King, that demon is too powerful. Our warriors aren't his match. One of the 6 winged men reported with a horrified expression. 3 of the 5 leaders have already died. What? The mad Mistwing monarch was shocked. These 5 subordinates of his were all nurtured by him. They were all at the peak of the Black Region Master Realm. Just the 5 of them were enough to trample Yuan City. But now, 3 of them had died. When did that demon come? The mad Mistwing monarch's expression was somewhat grave. This subordinate doesn't know. His strength is also at the peak of the Black Region Master Realm, but his battle strength is comparable to the peak of the Black Region Master Realm. The 6 winged race reported. The mad Mistwing monarch frowned. He naturally knew the difference between strength and battle strength. Some fighters were strong, but their battle strength was ordinary. Some fighters were mediocre, but their battle strength was extraordinary. Peak of the Black Region Master Realm. This level was already at the peak of the Northern Continent's pyramid. Is there any news of Emperor Yu? The mad Mistwing monarch asked. The 6-winged race shook his head. The news is still sealed, but logically, Emperor Yu shouldn't have returned, right? Logically? The mad Mistwing monarch sneered. Who knows? Just like before, who would have guessed that Emperor Yu could challenge and force the Broken Mountain Wing monarch to a draw? What if the wing monarch uses us as pawns? What if we drive the tiger to chase the wolf? The only person the mad Mistwing monarch feared was Emperor Yu. It was difficult to advance or retreat. If he didn't have to show himself, the mad Mistwing monarch definitely wouldn't want to do so. If Emperor Yu was in Yuan City, he would really be sending himself to his death. Although the possibility of this wasn't high. But even if Emperor Yu wasn't there, unless he was killed by the 3 winged monarchs, if he returned to the Northern Continent one day, it would be hard to guarantee that he wouldn't settle the score. Without 100% certainty, the mad Mistwing monarch didn't want to take the risk. Thus, in the past, he had turned a blind eye to the existence of Yuan City. But this time he couldn't. He didn't dare to disobey the winged monarch's order, even if he established his own faction. Damn it! Damn it! The mad Mistwing monarch gritted his teeth in anger. His eyes suddenly emitted killing intent as he roared. That Quichichi fellow is really cunning. Whatever blame he has, he would make me take it. Damn it, let's fight then. Everyone gather for me and flatten Yuan City. To be continued. For the latest novel updates, please visit the website. Chapter 1653. The scales of the battlefield shifted back and forth, constantly tilting and tilting. From the moment the winged race gained the absolute advantage, to the moment the humans retaliated, to the moment the winged race sent in more reinforcements to suppress the humans, to the moment Lin Feng sent Wu Jin to oversee the human race, single-handedly stopping the winged race's experts and stopping the humans from bleeding. The humans, whose morale had been somewhat suppressed, were pleasantly surprised, although they did not know where this overbearing powerhouse came from. However, there was one thing they were certain of. He was a friend, not an enemy. It's a demon expert. As the commander of the human army and a core member of the Yu clan, Yu Shui was naturally knowledgeable and recognized him at a glance. The extinct demon race? Lei Meng asked in surprise. Yu Shui said, back then, the demon race was exterminated by the winged race and the Chan River monster race. After that, we humans rose. Well, it can be said that the demon race and us humans are of the same breath. Lei Meng was puzzled. Since they're extinct, why do they still exist? I'm not too sure about this, but Yu Shui hesitated. The demon race's bloodline hasn't gone extinct. Lei Meng seemed to have caught the scent of information. Now isn't the time to talk, Brother Lei. Yu Shui said seriously. The demon expert is strong, and he's already killed 3 peak experts who have advanced to the Master of Dark Domain. If I'm not wrong, the Yu clan is going to use their full strength. You mean? Lei Meng was startled awake. Yu Shui nodded. The 2 winged monarchs are probably going to make a move. While we humans still have a slight advantage, we should consolidate our advantage and kill as many winged race experts as possible before they appear. Understood, Lei Meng replied. The human race sent out all of their elites. The experienced Yu Shui seized the opportunity to expand their advantage. He knew exactly what to do at the right time. Although the humans only had 3 axes, these 3 axes were enough to make the winged race dizzy. On the one hand, they wanted to weaken the winged race's combat strength and strengthen the confidence of the human experts. On the other hand, they wanted the winged race to feel the pressure and surrender without a fight. After all, the winged race also had internal conflicts. The 2 winged monarchs had never been on good terms. In order to preserve their strength, the winged race's army might retreat. Of course, this possibility was very small. But how would they know if they didn't try? Even if there was only a glimmer of hope, Yu Shui still wanted to try. Kill. Ha. There's nothing special about the winged clan. That's right. Weren't they still scared witless by us? Let's kill them and let them know how powerful we humans are. Under Yu Shui's command, the human army's attack was like a tidal wave. One wave more powerful than the one before, completely suppressing the winged men. However, everyone, including Yu Shui, believed that it was due to Wu Jin. In fact, that was not the case. Qi, a peak master of the Dark Domain, had been killed without knowing what had happened. He had clearly been attacking the demon race expert, but he had suddenly felt a sharp pain in his heart. Someone had ambushed him from behind. The most frightening thing was that the strength of this sneak attacker was quite strong. A roar filled with indignation reverberated throughout the army of the winged men. Whoosh! Lin Feng's figure disappeared in a flash, like an ancient well without ripples. The 5th one. With Lin Feng's Heaven's Eye cultivation, the peak experts of the winged men army couldn't escape his pursuit. 5 peak experts who had advanced to the Master of the Dark Domain had all been killed. Wu Jin was more of a cover. The real killer was Lin Feng. If he really had to fight 1 against 5, he might be able to win, but it definitely wouldn't be that easy. Just the surrounding environment alone wouldn't allow him to kill 5 powerful winged men so easily. In Lin Feng's mind, the word despicable didn't exist. Winning was the most important thing. If he wanted to win this war, he had to carefully plan and seize every opportunity. Even so, it was still difficult. However, Lin Feng didn't want to give up. He hoped to help the humans win this war as long as he could, even if the chances were very small. They're here. Within the battle formation, Lin Feng frowned. He felt an extremely powerful aura descend. One of the 2 winged monarchs advanced to the peak of the Master of the Dark Domain. Lin Feng felt it very clearly. They were at the same level of strength as him. Only by defeating them would they have a chance to turn the tide and help the humans defend Yurin City. There are still 12 peak experts who have advanced to the Master of the Dark Domain. I hope Wu Jin can defend for a while longer. Lin Feng shivered inwardly. The Golden Flame Old Demon hadn't been sent out. He had been kept as a backup. After all, he had to consider the Yurin clan's side. One shouldn't have the heart to harm others, but one must always be on guard against others. I hope the Yurin clan won't be a burden. Lin Feng's figure disappeared into the chaotic battle. If the Yurin clan didn't hold back, there would be a trace of hope to repel the winged men army. Otherwise, there would be no hope at all. The elites of the winged men had all been sent out. Under Yu Shui's command, the human army, which had been unstoppable, was once again defeated. Faced with the winged men's elite army, the human experts felt as if they had bumped into a thick iron wall and were instantly dumbfounded. Too strong. There were more than 10 peak experts who had advanced to the master of the dark domain. On the human side, there were only Yu Shui, Lei Gun, and Wu Jin. There was an absolute difference in numbers. Not to mention, the winged men army was composed of experts who had advanced to the master of the dark domain. They were crushing the human army in every aspect. Retreat. Everyone retreat immediately. Yu Shui hurriedly issued orders. He clearly knew that if the battle continued, the human army would be annihilated. The strength of the winged men was too terrifying. And this was before the two winged monarchs appeared. But now, the situation was somewhat out of control. Even if the human experts wanted to retreat, the winged men wouldn't allow them to. The 12 peak experts who had advanced to the master of the dark domain attacked separately. They were like 12 sharp blades, harvesting the corpses of the human experts. Too fast. The unstoppable attacks directly broke through the 3 axes of the human army. Yu Shui and Lei Gun were each facing 3 peak winged men who had advanced to the master of the dark domain. Wu Jin was even worse off. She was surrounded by 6 peak winged men who had advanced to the master of the dark domain. Break for me. Lei Gun suddenly exploded. The powerful innate talent of the lightning race greatly increased Lei Gun's attack power. His lightning-like power instantly cut through the defense of one of the peak winged men who had advanced to the master of the dark domain. But at this moment, space seemed to shatter. Lei Gun's body shook violently, and his eyes widened in shock. A powerful space force appeared like a sharp blade. With 2 swishing sounds, not only did it make it difficult for him to move, but his left arm was also directly cut off, causing blood to gush out. In an instant, his chest caved in, as if he had taken a heavy punch. Pung! Lei Gun was heavily blasted away and landed on the ground in a miserable state. Before he could react, he was already heavily injured. In the distance, an upright figure appeared, flapping 6 translucent white wings. It was the most outstanding bloodline of the winged men. The Mad Mist Winged Monarch had arrived. Chapter 1654. Roar. The arrival of the Mad Mist Winged King caused the winged race army to boil. As their king, the Mad Mist Winged King was a godlike existence to the winged race, a true king. Advanced to the pinnacle of the dark region Master Realm. This was one of the strongest forces in the northern continent. Just like how the humans gained a backbone with Emperor Yu, the winged race army gained a backbone with the arrival of the Mad Mist Winged King. All aspects of them had improved significantly. One move to defeat one of the 5 strongest humans of the northern continent, Lei Gun. Of course, there was the element of surprise, but there was no need to doubt the strength of the Mad Mist Winged Monarch. In a one-on-one battle, Lei Gun had no chance of winning. His advancement meant a signal. This time, the winged race was serious. They would take down Yurin City at all costs. This battle, the winged race was determined to win. The appearance of the Mad Mist Winged King and Lei Gun's heavy injuries made time seem to have stopped. The human experts, led by Yu Shui, paled. The air seemed to have frozen, causing them to feel suffocated. The last trace of hope was lost. Everyone in the northern continent knew that the Mad Mist Winged King and the Cool Strange Winged King were only afraid of one person. Emperor Yu. Because of Yurin Huang, Yurin City existed. Now that the Mad Mist Winged King led the winged race army to mercilessly attack the human army and flatten Yurin City, it also implied another possibility. Emperor Yu was in trouble. Yurin City could fall, the human experts could die. But if something happened to Emperor Yu, then the humans of the northern continent would be consigned to eternal damnation. It would be difficult for them to rise again. It's over. There was no other thought in Yu Shui's mind. Facing such a strong enemy, Fighting to the death was like smashing an egg against a rock. There was no chance of winning. However, there was no way for him to leave. Not only was he surrounded by 3 peak experts who advanced to the Dark Region Master Realm, there were also 3 peak experts who advanced to the Dark Region Master Realm. The biggest problem came from the Mad Mistwing King. Escape in front of him? The winged race was a race with an extremely strong talent in the power of space. As a winged monarch expert, he had the highest talent in space. Dilly-dallying. The Mad Mistwing King seemed very dissatisfied. He coldly snorted and stepped forward. His claws condensed space true intent and sealed Yu Shui's face turned green. Senior brother. On the other side, Yu Jing anxiously rushed over. However, his combat strength had barely reached the peak of the Black Domain Master Realm. Compared to the current situation, it was simply a drop in the bucket. It wasn't even enough to fill the gaps between the Wing Clan's teeth. Run! Yu Shui angrily yelled Yu Shui. His furious attacks had broken through his bottleneck and forced him to fight against 3 peak winged beings who had advanced to the Master of Black Region. Seeing Yu Jing getting closer and closer, he was more anxious than anyone else. He knew that it would be impossible for him to escape death, and he didn't want his junior brother to die with him. On the other side, the corner of the Mad Mistwing King's mouth curled coldly, and a spatial blade was already slashed out. Faster space. Although it wasn't very powerful, it was more than enough to deal with an ordinary Black Domain Master. It had just severed one of Lei Gun's arms, and now it wanted to kill Yu Jing. Junior martial brother. Yu Shui's eyes turned red as his body trembled. In a fit of rage, he unleashed all his attacks and forcefully broke through the restraints of space. He struggled to create a path, but it was impossible for him to save Yu Jing. Just as his junior brother was about to be cut in half by the space blade clang, a saber light suddenly appeared and forcibly shattered the space blade. The space trembled as the 2 powerful forces collided. The aftershocks were equally shocking. The airflow at the center of the collision fluctuated violently, shaking everyone's internal organs. Who? The Mad Mistwing King's eyes widened as he roared. His body was trembling slightly, and his feet were faintly retreating. He clearly knew how powerful the space blade was. There was only one human expert who could break it. Emperor Yu. Who was it? Not only the Mad Mistwing King, Yu Shui, Yu Jing, and the other human experts were all shocked. Suddenly, a figure appeared. He wore black battle armor and held a black battle blade in his hand. He stood there indifferently and emitted a murderous aura. His entire body was as domineering as a blade, sharp and unstoppable. Lin Feng. Oh! The Mad Mistwing King's trembling body suddenly stopped. His eyes lit up and his frozen face relaxed. His tight lips curled into a disdainful sneer. As long as it wasn't Emperor Yu, he didn't care. Yu Shui and Yu Jing were also stunned. The sudden appearance of an unfamiliar face confused the 2 experts of the Yu clan. They didn't know where he came from, nor did they know who he was. He looks familiar. Yu Jing was startled. I think I've seen him somewhere before. Yu Shui had this thought. In an instant, Lin Feng attacked. Stepping on the air, blood veins appeared on the soul-severing blade. The entire blade was covered in black mist, as if a demon had awakened. It went straight for the Mad Mistwing King. Reckless. The Mad Mistwing King didn't care. He waved his left and right claws, sending out 2 space blades. In his opinion, other than Emperor Yu, humans were just small fries. Brandishing his blade, Lin Feng's eyes flashed with light. Facing the space blade, Lin Feng dodged to the side. The moment he waved his blade, he met the space blade head-on. Dang! The air fluctuated violently, and Lin Feng exploded to the other side. Where Yu Shui was. Not good. The Mad Mistwing King instantly reacted. The transparent wings on his back flapped, and a vigorous spatial energy exploded out, heading straight for Lin Feng. Very quickly. However, Lin Feng was even faster. Before the Mad Mistwing King's attack arrived, the soul-severing blade was like a death god descending, cutting off the heads of 3 winged race experts. The 3 peak winged race experts that were attacking Yu Shui never imagined that they would be killed by a human. Pooh! The three-winged race experts died with their eyes wide open. Blood sprayed onto Yu Shui's stunned face. Lin Feng's right foot stepped on the air. His body was like a spinning top as he went straight for Wu Jin. Crack! Space froze as a terrifying spatial force blasted towards Lin Feng. That was an attack from the frenzied Winged King. Lei Gun was heavily injured by this attack, but Lin Feng didn't evade it at all. Clang! Space shook violently as Lin Feng headed straight for the location of Yudanin. You're courting death. Mad Mist Winged King was so angry that his entire face was flushed red. His capable subordinates were continuously killed right under his nose. Where would he put his face? Flapping its wings rapidly, it flew towards Lin Feng and launched a powerful attack. If his subordinates were killed, he would lose all his face. But this time, whoosh! Lin Feng's speed suddenly erupted, but he was not heading towards Yujin's location. Instead, he was heading straight for the frenzied, mist-winged king. The war blade in his hand was sparkling, and his eyes were sharp. From the beginning to the end, he only had one target. Boom! Lin Feng directly attacked the mad mist-winged king. To be continued. For the latest novel updates, please visit Chapter 1655. It was unexpected. Mad Mistwing King's face was ferocious. Being schemed against by a human made him furious, especially in front of his subordinates. Facing Lin Feng's sudden attack, Mad Mistwing King didn't have time to defend, but he didn't care at all. In front of absolute strength, there was no use in resorting to trickery. Reckless, Mad Mistwing King didn't defend and counterattacked. Shocking spatial energy gathered and pressed down on Lin Feng crazily. His mouth curved into a sneer, and his eyes flashed. Intermediate spatial, true meaning, rolling wheel. It had the same effect as crushing. Although his attack was slower by a beat, he believed that with his strength, even if he couldn't display his full power, it was enough to teach this arrogant human a lesson. However, Lin Feng was like nothing had happened. He didn't care about the seal of the intermediate spatial, true meaning at all. His speed was just a bit slower, but the blade light was even more piercing. How is this possible? Mad Mistwing King's eyes widened. The ultimate move that he was so proud of was not effective. In a flurry, the Mad Mistwing King hastily blocked the blade energy that was coming at him like a raging sea wave. A vigorous and powerful force suddenly erupted, and the level of power was not below him in the slightest. Silver Plateau Blade Technique, Thorny Stripe. Although the attack range was not there yet, and the power was weakened by more than half, the Silver Plateau Blade Technique was still a heavenly Dao Marrow Blade Technique. It could display 40% of the heavenly Dao Marrow Blade Technique. Even if it was only 10% of the power, it was still quite shocking. The vigorous energy broke through Mad Mist Wing King's defense, forcibly breaking a big hole in the armor on his body. Boom! Mad Mist Wing King, who had almost no defense, had his internal organs violently churning. He suffered a painful blow and was directly pushed back while howling. He was injured and vomited blood. A moment of underestimating the enemy caused him to suffer a serious injury. What? It can't be? Not only the humans, but the winged race experts were also stunned. Their king, one of the strongest in the northern continent, was actually pushed back by a human youth. The sudden reversal of the situation was unexpected and unbelievable. Actually, Mad Mistwing King himself was also stunned. It wasn't that his strength was far from Lin Feng's, but that Lin Feng knew Mad Mistwing King's strength. But Mad Mistwing King didn't know anything and was still arrogant in his first battle. First impressions are the strongest. In the Mad Mist-Winged Monarch's mind, he only knew that the human Emperor Yu was the strongest. None of the other humans had reached the peak of the Black Region Master Realm. They were simply not on the same level as him. Therefore, he didn't put Lin Feng in his eyes. Little did he know that the Lin Feng in front of him was an existence stronger than him. Boom! Lin Feng would naturally not give the wild mist-winged king any chance. As he retreated, he swiftly attacked. If he could end the battle simply and quickly, he would absolutely not hesitate. However, it was obviously not that easy. Protect the king. The winged race experts reacted quickly. They were loyal and devoted. The combined attack of several peak winged race experts who had advanced to the Black Domain Master realm couldn't be underestimated. After all, they were proficient in the power of space. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. Facing the incoming winged race experts, he didn't hold back at all. The war blade in his hand slashed through the air like cutting tofu, killing the winged race experts who had reached the peak of the Black Domain Master realm in just a few moves. Quick! The efficiency was extremely high. Is he a human? Yu Shui couldn't hide his shock. Seeing the winged race experts who were at the same level as him being killed, that feeling was subversive. He had never thought that a human youth could be this strong. He was almost comparable to Emperor Yu. However, how could such an expert be unknown? Who exactly is he? A huge question mark appeared in Yu Shui's mind as he stared straight at Lin Feng. At this moment, it wasn't only Yu Shui who had this thought. Amidst the mournful roar, the wild mist-winged king, who had bought some time, had already caught his breath and angrily stared at Lin Feng. He had almost suffered a crushing defeat. Fortunately, he recovered in time. Human, you've angered me. The wild mist-winged king angrily roared. The 3 pairs of transparent wings on his back emitted a bright light as he used his spatial talent to the extreme. Chi! Chi! Sharp spatial blades were shot out with a flap of his wings. They contained powerful spatial energy and were completely different from the previous spatial blades. They were stronger and denser. The wild mist-winged king had used his true strength. In that instant, another 3 winged race experts who had advanced to the Black Region Master realm were killed. How could the wild mist-winged king not be angry? One must know that it was difficult to nurture even one of these subordinates. With such heavy casualties this time, even if he returned victorious, his forces would be suppressed by the wild mist-winged king. Rage. So this is the wild mist-winged king's true strength. Yu Shui was completely stunned. At this moment, he felt that he was too naive and had completely underestimated the winged race king's strength. In front of such strength, unless Emperor Yu came, no one would be able to save Yuan City. Even if it was this human youth in front of him? It can't be. Yu Shui was just stunned by the wild mist-winged king's terrifying strength. In the next moment, he saw the human youth erupt with even more terrifying strength. Shua! 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 Every move, every attack was unstoppable, and he advanced courageously. The spatial blades were all broken by the blade and changed direction. In the blink of an eye, the human youth was incomparably close to the wild mist-winged king. The instant explosion of blade light caused the heavens and earth to lose color. Silver Plateau Blade Technique, Thorny Stripe. The true Silver Plateau Blade Technique's first move, the true 40% Heaven's Path Marrow Realm. In a close-range state, Lin Feng's true battle strength was displayed. It was even stronger than the Tyrant Dragon Clone's Blade Technique realm. This was the true battle strength of the original body. Boom! Lin Feng's attack completely suppressed the insufferably arrogant wild mist-winged king. The latter's body trembled violently as blood gushed out. He was seriously injured. He couldn't believe that he would lose in a head-on battle. However, the terrifying power of that blade was indeed above his. It wasn't a trick, but a true battle strength. Complete suppression. Impossible. How can there be such a strong human? The wild mist-winged king's face was distorted and hysterical. His battle intent and fighting spirit were slowly losing. The loyal subordinates around him went up to protect him, but under the absolute suppression of Lin Feng's attacks, they all died without a burial place. Boom, boom, boom. Every attack of Lin Feng's made the winged race army tremble in fear. Blood splattered and corpses were everywhere. Those who died under Lin Feng's hands were all elites of the winged race. Every winged race that wanted to stop Lin Feng's advance had all been turned into ashes. Under the dumbfounded gazes of the human experts, Lin Feng charged into the winged race army alone, like a killing god. Invincible. Die. Lin Feng's blade was as cold as his eyes. The Heaven's Path Marrow realm enveloped him. A cold light flashed across and went straight for the head of the wild, mist-winged king who had already lost all will to fight. At this moment, Poochie, a sudden change occurred. To be continued. For the latest novel updates, please visit the website. Chapter 1656. Whoosh. The space was extremely distorted, attacking with a strange spiral. The terrifying power was not only unexpected, but also as if it had been lying in ambush for a long time, waiting for the arrival of its prey. Cool, strange wings king. Lin Feng knew who it was without looking. Among the winged people of the northern continent, there was only one who was stronger than the mad mist wing king, and that was the cool, strange wings king. Between the two wing kings, the cool, strange wings king had always been better. The timing of his attack was perfect. It was when he was about to kill the mad mist wing king. If he attacked recklessly, then the cool, strange wings king's attack would be enough to heavily injure him. But if he dodged, then the mad mist wing king would be able to preserve his life. The two wing kings would join hands to deal with him. There was no time to hesitate. The battle changed rapidly. Lin Feng switched from offense to defense in a split second, facing the cool, strange wings king. This was an instinctive reaction. He would not put himself in danger just to kill the mad mist wing king. Killing the mad mist wing king was not that important. He did not have much enmity with him in the first place. Moreover, even if he could not kill him this time, he could still kill him later. Bang! Lin Feng blocked the cool, strange wings king's attack. Although he was pushed back, his blood and chi surged, but he did not suffer any injuries. The result of his prompt decision was that he had enough battle power to continue fighting the cool, strange wings king. Shameless, despicable winged people taking turns to fight. This is too much. What bullshit, wing king? He's worse than a dog. The human warriors cursed in anger. Unknowingly, the battle between the two sides had stopped. They were all watching the battle between the top warriors. Some of the winged people who could understand the human language were so angry that they kept flapping their wings and roaring. But it was the truth. The two winged kings were taking turns to fight a human youth today. Even if they won, it would be an unfair victory. However, the cool, strange wings king obviously did not have this awareness. He was expressionless, cold like a stone, but the flickering light in his small eyes showed that he was very crafty and good at controlling the situation. He did not care about the gossip. The winner is king. I'll take this opportunity to get rid of Quanglan and flatten Yuan City. I, Quang Kiki, will be the king of the northern continent. Quang Kiki's wings monarch was ambitious. His goal had never been just the wings monarch. He wanted to become the northern continent's wing monarch. Only by becoming a wing monarch expert would one have the strength and qualifications to step into the strongest origin awakening continent of the Tongchi continent. However, this human is not simple. After truly exchanging blows, the cool, strange wings king's expression became more and more serious. His spatial attacks would always be weakened by a portion, and his opponent's power attacks were even more powerful. Strength Heavenly Tao, Marrow Initiation Stage? Isn't this the cultivation system of the Demon Clan? Now, other than the Origin Awakening continent, the four great continents of the Tongchi continent still have the Demon Clan's power inheritance? The cool, strange wings monarch was shocked. Compared to him, the Mad Mist Wing King was like a child. He had already stood tall in the northern continent for an unknown number of years, and was almost the same age as the mountain-shattering Wing Emperor. In terms of knowledge and experience, he was a great deal ahead of the mad Mist Wing Emperor. The more they fought, the more shocked the cool, strange wings king was. He completely couldn't figure out the depth of his opponent, and he completely didn't know the origin of this human youth in front of him. His strength was indeed superior, but his spatial attacks would be weakened. Overall, they were about the same. Whoever wanted to win, it wouldn't be that simple. First, it was Emperor Yu, and now there's an even younger one. How can there be so many talents among the human experts? Could it be that he also obtained the inheritance of the Origin Awakening continent like Emperor Yu? Or perhaps the human obtained some cultivation treasure land? It's not simple. Compared to Lin Feng, the cool, strange wings king was more cunning and thought more. Unable to fight wholeheartedly, The situation was immediately reversed by Lin Feng and gradually suppressed. Battles were sometimes that simple. One was attentive while the other was perfunctory. The difference in the same battle strength would be huge. Good job. Too awesome. This brother is too simple, too powerful. What winged monarch expert, bah? Taking turns to fight, you've lost all face, and you're still suppressed by us humans. Ha ha. Kill him, kill them all. Seeing that Lin Feng had the advantage, the human experts were extremely excited. Although they didn't know Lin Feng, it didn't matter. As long as they knew that Lin Feng was a human and stood on their side, the rest was not important. They were very clear that as long as they could defeat the cool, strange wings king, the human race would regain control of the situation. The extravagant hope of defending Yurin City could be realized. But could they win? Chi, chi, chi. In the distance, swift and fierce spatial blades continuously attacked. It was the Mad Mist Wing King who had recovered a bit of his vitality. Seeing that the cool, strange Wings King was restrained, the Mad Mist Wing King once again joined the battle. He wanted to win. No matter how despicable it was, the winner was always the king in war. Let's fight. Lin Feng ignored the Mad Mist Wing King. Firstly, he was more proficient in attacking from the outside, so it was hard to catch him. Secondly, the cool, strange Wings King was stronger. The target must be focused. Wah! Lin Feng's eyes shone. His bloodline burst forth. The black whirlpool absorbed the spatial energy. His heavenly Dao Marrow realm increased again. The second move of Silver Plateau Blade Arts, Thorn Slash, pierced the bones. Every swing of the blade carried a shocking blade force. Boom! Lin Feng went straight for the cool, strange Wings King. Completely ignoring the harassment of the Mad Mist Wing King, Lin Feng's attack frequency increased. The Black Hell, soul-severing blade displayed its full power. He no longer held back. In an instant, Lin Feng's explosive attack made the humans and Wings men dumbfounded. Was he still human? One person against two Wings King experts. Not only was he not at a disadvantage, he had the absolute advantage. The blade sound was sharp, directly attacking the cool, strange Wings King to retreat and defend. The pressure made him unable to breathe, and he couldn't even counterattack. What kind of strength was this? Just now, it was actually not his full strength. Yu Shui was completely stunned. Powerful. Too powerful. Yu Jing's eyes were full of stars. His body trembled in excitement. He completely worshipped Lin Feng. His hands kept gesturing as if he was the one fighting the two Wings Kings. Lin Feng's strength shocked the Wings men army. In their minds, they had always thought that the two Wings Kings were the strongest. Destroying Yurin City was the easiest thing to do. But now, what they saw in front of them had completely overturned their thoughts. So, humans were actually this strong. Punk! Lin Feng's heavy attack forced the cool, strange Wings King back again. The latter was heavily injured, but he was still expressionless. Suddenly, hua! Dazzling lights flashed, and the turbulent space energy exploded like fireworks. Everything in front of him was distorted and illusory. Lin Feng's heart trembled, and his figure abruptly stopped in midair. Looking at the empty space in front of him, he couldn't help laughing. One of the two Wings Kings, the strongest expert in the North Continent. The cool, strange Wings King actually escaped? To be continued. For the latest novel updates, please visit the website. Chapter 1657. No one would have guessed that the cool, strange Wings King would come and go as he pleased. He was different from the Mad Mist Wing King. Although he had been fighting with Lin Feng for a long time, the cool, strange Wings King was powerful and did not suffer any heavy injuries. This could be seen from the fact that he could leave so easily. He obviously had the power to fight, but he suddenly left. The actions of the cool and strange Wings monarch left everyone speechless, especially Lin Feng, who was having a good time fighting. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. An expert didn't act like an expert at all. He was capable of sneak attacks and escaping. But the one who was the most shocked was undoubtedly the Mad Mist Wing King. He was cooperating with the cool, strange Wings King to attack Lin Feng, and scrupulously using the space blade, constantly harassing and sneak attacking. He was secretly delighted, But who would have thought that the cool, strange Wings King would just run away and set him up? The two of them could not do anything to this human youth, and now he was the only one left. Cold sweat dripped down the mad Mist Wing King's forehead. His injuries had not healed yet. The one-on-one battle just now was still fresh in his mind. His injuries were caused by this human youth in front of him. Run! Although the mad Mist Wing King's reaction was slow, he was still a Wing King level warrior. Since the cool, strange Wings King was so shameless, why would he still want his face? If he were to die here, no matter how beautiful his face was, it would be useless. Shwa! The space energy fluctuated violently. The mad Mist Wing King's movement was fast, but someone was faster than him. Heaven Catching Net. Huinu's huge figure appeared in an instant, bringing the treasure Heaven Catching Net. It sealed the entire space. All the space was shackled by the Heaven Catching Net. Underneath the net was the mad Mist Wing King's shocked face. He struggled violently, but the Heaven Catching Net was still closing in. The more he struggled, the tighter the Heaven Catching Net was. Very quickly, Gray Slave gave a simple and honest smile and carried the Heaven Capturing Net on his back. Within the net was the deathly pale Winged King with a deathly pale face. He was on the verge of death, and he who was originally heavily injured no longer had any strength left. The battlefield was silent. The situation suddenly took a turn for the worse. In the vast Winged People army, there were two super masters, the two Winged Kings who led the Winged People in the North Continent. One of them escaped in shame, while the other was captured alive. Shocked, stupefied. All the Winged People warriors were dumbfounded, not knowing what to do next. Boom! With the black hell, soul-severing blade in hand, Lin Feng was like a god of death as he attacked the remaining peak-winged race experts who had advanced to the Black Domain Master Realm. How could he not grasp such an advantageous situation? The light of hope on the battlefield had already lit up. Silver Plateau, Saber Technique, Thorny Cover. Chi! Lin Feng's saber was extremely powerful, and it was invincible in a head-on confrontation. He charged into the army of the Winged Clan by himself, and even though his figure was tiny, the might of his saber covered the heavens and the earth, causing the army of the Winged Clan to be in a state of chaos and misery. Behind him, the human experts were dumbfounded. What kind of strength was this? Follow our heroes, kill! Yu Jing was the first to charge out. His rallying power was extremely strong. At this moment, his emotions had already been stirred up by Lin Feng. Having witnessed this shocking battle with his own eyes, Yu Jing had long since regarded Lin Feng as his idol. Crazy worship and reverence. Now that Lin Feng had charged forward, Yu Jing naturally wouldn't fall behind. Everyone attack. We're definitely going to win this time. Yu Shui was in high spirits as he gave instructions to Jiang He. As the commander of the battlefield, he knew very well that the winds of war had completely blown to their side. This battle of unequal strength, where there was absolutely no chance of winning at all, had taken a huge turn for the better. All because of one person. So awesome. Yu Shui was completely convinced by Lin Feng. He led the charge and was not injured at all. Although the Winged Clan's army seemed huge, all of their elites had been killed. All that was left was a motley crew. Although the human experts were few in number, their momentum was unstoppable. We can win this battle. Yu Shui was very certain right then, and his eyes were full of joy. He could protect Yurin City, the foundation of the Yu clan, and the main base of the human race. The Winged Clan was not invincible. The war was in full swing. Although they had lost the two Winged Kings, the Winged Clan's army was dozens of times more than the human army, and they were still powerful. However, without a leader, the Winged Clan was like a sheet of loose sand, fighting for themselves. News of the two Winged Kings' crushing defeat quickly spread throughout the Winged Clan's army. On the other hand, the human army's momentum was unstoppable. Under the leadership of Lin Feng, the Winged Clan's army cried like ghosts and howled like wolves. They were terrified, and their morale was completely gone. This battle was enough to be recorded in the history books. In the battle to protect Yurin City, the humans, who were at a complete disadvantage, completed a shocking reversal. They gave the arrogant winged clan a head-on beating, and they lost their sense of direction. Below the city wall, there was a river of blood. The corpses of the winged clan were piled up like mountains. The human experts who were still alive were all injured, but they were all overjoyed and excited. They had won. They had defended Rin's city. Shouts, cries, and laughter mixed together. The human experts welcomed this moment that belonged to them. They focused their gazes on the city wall. The black figure wasn't very tall, but it was majestic. Their eyes were filled with reverence. This unknown young man had led them to a miracle, an impossible miracle. The demon expert who had slaughtered everyone and the giant with the golden net on his back stood respectfully behind him. The black saber in his hand seemed to have soul. It emitted a faint black aura that made people shudder. "Thank you for your help, hero." Yushui stepped forward and bowed respectfully. "On behalf of the Rin clan, I would like to express my deep gratitude." As the commander of this battle, Yushui clearly knew that they had won this battle because of this ordinary-looking young man in front of him. The young man's body wasn't very strong, but he had terrifying strength. He had single-handedly defeated 2 winged monarchs. He had single-handedly defeated the entire winged clan army, as if he was invincible. Even the Rin emperor was mediocre. "You're welcome. This is what I should do," Lin Feng replied. Yushui raised his head and looked at Lin Feng. His eyes flickered as if he had seen him before, but he couldn't remember where. "May I know where you're from? Are you an outsider?" The human races on the Tongqi continent all had their own characteristics. The difference between humans from the Milky Way and the Tongqi continent was obvious. Lin Feng nodded. He didn't deny it. It wasn't a secret anymore. "I see." Yushui nodded. He didn't seem surprised. He sighed and said, "I've heard that outsiders have amazing abilities and potential." "That's true. However," Yushui paused. "Forgive me for asking, hero, but have I seen you somewhere before?" "That's right, hero. We must have met before, right?" Yu Jing chimed in. Lin Feng smiled. Just as he was about to reply, a beautiful figure suddenly galloped over from afar. "Lin Feng!" Yu Chung exclaimed in shock. To be continued. Translator, Atlas Studios editor, Atlas Studios.